stars in our concert-style music hall. Find your fun at MGM Northfield Park.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Listen for Earl to Pearl and Nick Padone, Friday from 8 till noon.
And then Anthony Allant and Mac Robinson from noon till 2:30.
As we take you up to the Black Friday matchup between the Bears and Eagles, your home of the NFL and Westwood One in Cleveland. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
You can listen to The Fan anytime, anywhere on the free Odyssey app or by telling your smart speaker to play 92.3 The Fan. And now you can find 92.3 The Fan on YouTube. That's right. Watch the Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima from 6 to 10 a.m. And, of course, Afternoon Drive with Nick Wilson and Jonathan Peterlin from 2 to 7 p.m. live each and every weekday on the 92.3 The Fan YouTube channel. Subscribe to our channel for free and watch all the best content from your favorite shows on The Fan live and on demand now.
John Fanta joining us in 15 minutes. I feel like I'm going to give John a big compliment at some point, and I don't know if he's going to take it the right way. So maybe I'll run it by you first, and we'll get to the Browns in a second.
I was going to say, if you're worried about someone taking something the right way,
well, compliments are always a good thing, right? Who hates a compliment? But
you might want to test drive it.
Well, it's a compliment within the idea of, like, I'm also then just basically making fun of a lot of people in his business.
Okay.
So, like, I listened to John a couple weekends ago. He was doing some college basketball. He had some Big East basketball. I thought he did a great job. And my takeaway was that he sounds awesome, but I like him because he doesn't sound like so many of the other broadcasters right now do. And I know what this comes from. This comes from basically every other broadcaster that you hear these days. They're all out of Syracuse. And I'm convinced now that Syracuse is teaching these kids how to do the broadcast inflection to make the play-by-play all sound the same. I watch way too much of the sports that aren't necessarily even Sunday Night Football, even though I watch a lot of that as well. Mm-hmm. But I watch all. I basically my living room is like a Buffalo Wild Wings. Okay, it's basically a sports bar as my setup. I'm constantly watching things and I'm constantly taking in things. All these play-by-play guys, though, in the past like 5 to 10 years, they all sound the same.
So what you're saying is you can watch a game and say that guy went to Missouri, that guy went to Syracuse, that guy went to OU.
No, I just assume they all went to Syracuse because and here's the difference here is because although Missouri's got a great school for journalism, obviously, so does Northwestern. Some of those guys sound a little bit different. I think Syracuse is legitimately teaching them all to sound the same. I can't tell if it's just like, hey, Iron Eagle's here, and so we all just try to be like Iron Eagle and Bob Costas and like that. I don't know if that's what it is, but they all sound the same, and it's gotten to a spot where it stopped being good. Like, it stopped being something I enjoy. Now I'm like, oh, yeah, of course you sound that way. I know, before I Google and look at where you came from, I know you went to Syracuse. And Fanta doesn't sound that way, and I find it really refreshing. But I don't know if that's a good compliment or not.
I think that is a compliment, but it's all in the delivery of the compliment.
I think it's too hard of a position to put him in, if we're being honest about it. Because then it makes him throw down a bunch of his peers and makes him throw down like, you're right, I don't sound like those Syracuse guys. And I like Syracuse. I'm not even one of these. There's some media people that just hate on Syracuse to hate on Syracuse. I like Syracuse. Syracuse is a great school. I have friends that went to Syracuse, the whole everything. But, like, they all sound the same doing these games. And it's like this cookie-cutter play-by-play nonsense. I can't take it anymore.
I would probably, as your co-host, advise you not to bring that up with him today.
Well, I mean, I already.
Or ever. I feel like. I feel like.
Or ever.
Well, I feel like that is a text.
There is a compliment there.
No,
there is a compliment there.
But I feel like that's a text message or that's a phone call.
I'm going to text him. Your whole industry stinks, but you. Here we go.
Right. Like, I mean, I just don't. Dude, there's a whole. Are you not aware of the text chains that go on in our own market?
Oh, I'm aware.
Okay, well, so there you go.
The cabal?
The cabal.
As Nick calls them?
Right.
I'm aware. I'm semi-aware. I don't know who's a part of these text chains or anything like that. I just know they happen, and I'm definitely not a part of them. Right. Is what I also know. I also have no interest in being a part of them either. We need to make that abundantly clear, too.
Same.
Well, who is the time? I'm raising kids. I don't want to deal with that nonsense.
Also don't need to be the subject of them either. But anyway.
Well, that we don't care about. They make me the subject all day.
But I feel like that's something that you mentioned to him on a one-on-one basis and maybe not in this particular setting where thousands of people are listening and watching. Because
a compliment's still a compliment, Earl.
You know what? John, you're unique. You do a great job. Love watching and listening to you when you call games. That's the compliment you give.
I think I really just wanted to get off the take about how all Syracuse kids sound the same. And I'm now convinced that they've done something with their broadcasting department.
Didn't Lima go to Syracuse?
Lima did, but I don't.
So you're saying Lima does boring play-by-play?
I don't know that because he does football games I don't watch, so I don't know that. I couldn't tell you if he does boring football play-by-play or good football. I don't know. Sadly,
by the way, I apologize. I put you in a bad spot there.
I'm just being honest. I don't watch those games. I think he's got Youngstown State and Yale this weekend.
I have no idea.
Sorry, Lima, I'm not in on that one. I don't. Lima wouldn't be in on that one either unless he was doing the game, and he's doing the game. So sorry. He did a game with my little brother. My little brother does all sorts of different.
No kidding.
He does not like on the air stuff. My little brother is a behind the scenes guy. He does graphics for he's in charge of graphics for any of these type of games. And they did a whole. So it's funny. He actually just did a game 2 weeks ago with Dustin. And for years, he actually did games with Dustin, and they didn't connect the dots.
I just learned. I didn't know you had a little brother did games.
So Dustin didn't either, and apparently my little brother didn't understand who Dustin was either. And so they did all these games together for 2 or 3 years. They were doing these games together.
Okay.
And they go out to dinner on Friday nights. They did all this stuff, and they did not connect the dots that that's my brother, and then I also work with Dustin. I did not connect the dots at all because my little brother.
Same last name?
Yeah, same last name, but it just didn't hit for Dustin, and for some reason my little brother didn't understand that a guy in Cleveland media might know me in any sort of way. They just did not connect those dots, and so eventually they did, but it took 3 years for them to connect those dots. Legitimately. They just did a game together a couple weeks ago. They were out to dinner on Friday night, and I told my little brother to tell Dustin to basically go off on pickleball, and apparently it worked and got Dustin irate in the middle of this dinner. But he did. My little brother did a game with Lima a year ago, and what I will say about this, okay, my little brother said Lima did a great job. For whatever that's worth to Lima, he said, and my little brother does all these games, he said Lima was great. He did awesome. But it's the same type of situation. I had to go up to Lima the week of and be like, hey, so you're doing a game with my little brother. And so the fun part about this is, and this just speaks to the volume that my little brother does not care about my life at all when it comes to my professional life. We just don't talk about career. We don't talk about radio or anything like that.
Okay.
When I first found out he was coming in town to do the game, we were going to meet up, and I go, who's on the call? And in a Dan Le Batard twist of fate, he goes, Anthony Lima. Some guy named Anthony Lima. And I go, you better get that right by the time you get to Saturday, buddy. That's not his name. You better get that thing right. And so then there we are. And so then they did a game together, and he said Lima was actually great. He was actually great at it. So I have a lot of belief that Lima, because he went to Syracuse. I just learned something
about you that I didn't know.
So many years ago, I have a lot of belief that Lima hasn't been into this Syracuse bubble of just calling games one way and only one way. I think he got away from that. I think he was too early at Syracuse. Now I think it's all the young kids. It's all the ones that are John Fanta's age, the 25, 26, 27-year-olds that all come from Syracuse. They all sound exactly the same, and it's nauseating on these broadcasts that I watch.
Yeah, I cannot stress enough to you that is definitely a phone call or a text message compliment to deliver. When he comes on, just tell him he does a great job calling games, and you enjoy watching and listening to him, and leave it at that. And then afterwards be like, yeah, the rest of your Syracuse brethren are just boring as can be.
Well, let's find out what I do. John Fanta will join us next, right here on The Fan. Hey, it is Jonathan for Bookman & Son Fine Jewelry. 8803 Brecksville Road is where you need to go. I went there just last Friday. I was just in talking to Josh and his team, and I was with my wife, and we got our ring resized, the ring that we got so many years ago from Bookman & Son, and we're walking around, and we're obviously seeing how Josh is interacting with the customers. And one thing I loved is that you walk in, it's a pressure
NBC Sports' John Fanta joins Jonathan and Daryl. Headline sports news every 20 minutes on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Katie Pollock.
Go around the AFC North, Wednesday morning at 8. The Ken Carman Show with Anthony Lima. Weekday mornings starting at 6 a.m. 92.3 The Fan.
All right, back in here on The Fan. It is Jonathan Peterlin, Daryl Ryder with you guys. We go out to the Fan hotline. We are joined by NBC Sports', he's a big-time guy, and I love his TikToks. I got to tell him that. I'm going to tell him all the nice things I just never say when Nick's here. We are joined by John Fanta here on The Fan. Hello, John.
Wow. So the Cleveland Browns matched 3-win Wilson's count, and now he's afraid to talk with me. Here we go.
So, John, this would have been very predictable if I, in fact, had been the Shadore guy on the show and Nick had been anti-Shadore and been oh, no, he stinks, and then he was ducking me all week long. But it's not the case, as you know. It's not been the case at all. We've been simpatico with Shadore for what feels months on end, and he has been open to the idea that Shadore could give this team a spark. It should be a victory lap of sorts, but he's dealing with a sickness. He's under the weather.
I'm only kidding because I go back to our friendly wager in the preseason because Shadore Sanders at least gives me a glimmer of hope on the the 6 wins. And I think if you're the rules man, that if the Browns get 5 wins, that's closer to the number 6. And so then Wilson would owe me dinner. No, look, in all seriousness, guys, I want to give Shadore credit because you think about where this football team has been. And frankly, this season up until that start, the reasons for optimism were few and far between. And, you just asked yourself week in and week out, how can the leadership possibly justify looking into the mirror and saying that this is a professional football team, and more importantly, this is a professional quarterback? Because the fact is, I think of the Bengals opener, I think of the game against Minnesota. This Browns team should have 5 wins. They really should, if not 6, but they should have more than 3. And they're just wasting a generational defense. And we could talk about, jobs and whatnot and who should stay and who should go. But what I appreciated about Sunday was Shadore Sanders did what he was asked to do. He started this game and operated within his abilities. He got rid of the football. Did he make a mistake? Yes, he did. He benefited by playing a Raiders team that's as bad an opponent that I've seen the Browns play in a long time. So I do want to acknowledge that the Raiders were absolutely atrocious. The Browns defense has something to do with that, but clearly Vegas has other issues that go beyond anything. The first would be they're employing a head coach who should no longer be a head coach in the National Football League. But the fact is, the Browns went out. There was some help to Shadore, but this offense is limited. The talent on this offense is not very good. And I saw 2 throws that he made that I haven't seen a Browns quarterback make the entirety of the season. That is something that even somebody who doesn't like Shadore, and I liked what I saw, and I give the kid credit, I like him. Even somebody who doesn't like Shadore, you have to admit, he made 2 throws that we haven't seen from a single arm this season, and he made them to people that have not shown the ability to do it. So the fact is, that was a good debut. It's a strong start, and it makes the remainder of the season compelling.
How upset were you that Kevin Stefanski did not name him the starting quarterback for the rest of the season?
Well, Daryl, I'm not upset.
All right, disappointed. How about that? Disappointed.
Well, I don't even know if I'm disappointed. I expected it, Daryl. I expected it.
Hey, listen, I was shocked he even made an announcement at all. Usually we have to wait till Wednesday for these things because, Kevin Stefanski's the king of drama. He likes to drag these things out and keep us all on the edge of our seats.
Yeah, does he like to drag things out, or is he the puppet with strings above him that say, here's what you should do? I mean, it feels like to me, and you can jump in here if you disagree, to me, I was thinking about this myself, the Browns leadership finally figured out that, maybe you should just give him the starting nod for next week so that you aren't on for 2 or 3 hours for the next 2 or 3 mornings with people saying, what are you thinking? Why don't you name him the starter for the following week? It's like they finally woke up on the right side of the bed and said, maybe we should actually name him the starter so we avoid all the negative attention that would come with it. Because the fact is, Stafanski and Breer would have gotten blasted by everybody if they did not understand that he was going to be the starter all the way on Sunday. I mean, anybody with a brain could have determined that he should be starting. Hugh Jackson could have determined.
Well, let's not get carried away.
That he's going to be, that he's going to be starting on Sunday. So look, I'm not. I appreciate the. I know people were looking at the Stafanski video of Shadore in the locker room, and he had the same type of reaction with Dylan after Dylan's first win. Like they want this kid to earn his stripes. Clearly he did some things once they drafted him over the summer that go beyond just speeding tickets that, they probably didn't love. But, Daryl, you went to training camp enough. Like, to me, the most egregious thing is that the people that make the decisions in this operation started Dylan Gabriel week after week after week.
Don't need to tell me.
On the bench. That's the biggest mistake here. And that's ultimately why I still think a regime change is needed.
Yeah, no question. John Fanta, NBC Sports, joining us here on The Fan. Are you done with Jerry Judy?
Yes. I was done with him long before Sunday. I've been done with him. There's no place for him on the Cleveland Browns. I don't know how many places there are for him in the National Football League. That fumble on Sunday is joke. It's joke city. It's just a clown show of a mistake. And I don't always love putting people on blast here, even though it sounds like it with this one. Like, at the end of the day, guys, he is on this team to be their number one wide receiver, and he's not that. But he's being asked to be a leader. Like at its core, Daryl, would you agree? Jerry Judy was being asked and counted on to be a leader for this football team. Yes?
I don't know if he's being counted on being a leader, but certainly the leader in the wide receiver room, which, as you correctly stated, he's not. He's not a number one wide receiver. He's being asked to do something that is, in my view, not in the scope of his talent or ability. I think he's a strong number 2 receiver at best.
Yeah, at best. That was just, that changed. For the time being, that changed the game. That when that fumble happened, I was thinking to myself, this could let them back in. This could give them an opening. Just those things can't happen. And you're getting paid millions of dollars to not do that, to make plays. He has made countless mistakes. The Browns win in week 1 if he catches the football a couple more times. They probably do. He had a couple of terrible drops early in the season that cost his team possessions. And this offense's margin for error is slim. If not none. And so for me, I'm done with Jerry Judy. It's over. And they'll play out the string here. But that chapter book has absolutely closed. You cannot do what he did on Sunday and expect to continue on. I'm sorry. It's just, maybe I'm too harsh, but I'm done.
Let's go positive here. Myles Garrett doing things that I didn't think a human was capable of doing. By how many sacks does he blow by the NFL record, do you think?
Now, I'm going to say, I haven't heard if you guys made a prediction. I'm going to say 3 or 4.
He's at 18 5. Now. The record's 22.5. He's got 6 games to play.
He might break it by 8 to 10. He might legitimately.
All right, John.
Well, listen.
He's not playing the Raiders' offensive line next Sunday. It is the 49ers.
30 sacks, John?
Listen. This guy could have 6 sacks combined against the Titans and Bengals.
Cam Ward leads the league in sacks right now. He gets sacked a ton.
Could he have a 4 or 5 sack game against the Titans? Could he?
Yes. It's on the table.
Okay.
The scary part about this convo, John, is that, and you know this.
He'll break it by 5.
Well, also the idea that in December is his worst month for sacks historically. I mean, it's not even by like a little bit. His production gets cut in half in December, and it obviously that usually works with pass rushers that way because the weather impacts them. It's colder. Their get off isn't as quick. But with Miles, legitimately, he has cut his production in half relative to what it is in August, September, October, in November, and then in December.
Yes, but he's never had this record in the balance, and he's never had this type of momentum that he has never played better football. I mean, and he's benefiting from some of the new pieces on this defense. Like, that's the other thing, is when you're looking up at this defense, Mason Graham's in on plays. Carson Schwessinger's in on everything. I mean, this is the coverage. The pass coverage has been A-level, if not A-plus, to this point. You know, Jim Schwartz's defense, at times in his tenure, has been very susceptible to giving up the big play. This team doesn't really do that. The Browns have not given up that big play.
Don't jinx them.
And what's that? Well,
don't jinx them.
Come on. Well, hold on a minute. If we honestly wanted to say don't jinx the Cleveland Browns, we are so past that. I hope we'd be reverse jinxing them at this point because of how much bad stuff has happened. We're worried about that all the time. You don't jinx a Cleveland Guardians perfect game or no hitter. That's the no jinx clause in this town.
I think where Daryl's getting this from is we took a call last hour. The guy said we jinxed the Buckeyes because we said that the Buckeyes are going to win against Michigan.
What was his name? Yeah, whatever his name is, he should go back to the university, attend, and ask for his degree back because that's just idiotic. I mean, happy Thanksgiving. Look forward to your conspiracy theories at your in-laws on Thursday. We're glad that we won't be in the room. Sorry, but not sorry. Can you tell I got a little pep in my step for the holiday season, guys?
Cold-hearted, John.
Well, look, call me Scrooge this afternoon. Wilson's not around. Normally I bring the positivity up because he tries to attack me.
I show up and we get negative John.
No,
my fault.
No, not at all. It's not you, dangerous one. It's definitely not you. It's actually very good to be talking with you. You do a tremendous job. The fact is, I think, like, Garrett, it's a treat. You know, that at the core of it, guys, we should be relishing every single time we get to watch this dude line up and play football. It's very, very entertaining to watch him play every Sunday. Now it's more entertaining because we get to watch Shadore Sanders. And, like, look, does any of us know how Sunday's going to go? I expect the Browns to be in the game. They're at home. They've got a defense to ride behind. Weather plays a part. You know, it comes down to one thing. Can Shadore Sanders make the big play and not the big play for the other team? You know, like that to me is the biggest thing. Can he manage the game? Can he manage not making that big interception throw? And can he find a way to just continue to grow week in and week out? I mean, that now is the intrigue with him. It's the intrigue with some of the other younger pieces on this football team. I mean, I love Dylan Sampson heading to the house on Sunday. I'm glad Quinshon Judkins came back and wasn't, you know, the injury wasn't something severe. I love watching those two kids get better every week. Like, at the end of the day, the Browns, this isn't saying much, but somehow we've had worse Decembers, worse end of Novembers than what this Sunday presents. I'm not trying to write a storybook, but there is something at stake here in the coming weeks for this team. There is some intrigue. And, you know, the biggest thing of all is we're watching a historic season, and it's from Myles Garrett. And you could argue about a contract or about this, that, or the third. The fact is, the owner paid him. I believe he's worth it, and he's playing like it every single Sunday. And the people who were saying, you know, trade Myles Garrett or it's not working or I don't like him, I'm sorry, but you need to eat your pie, and not the Thanksgiving dessert pie. Like, that's enough. He is a generational, historic, Hall of Fame talent, and it's a treat to watch him every Sunday. Let's relish in it.
All right, John, you mentioned Thanksgiving. Give me your controversial Thanksgiving topic, thought, etc. Obviously, it's going to be food based. I would imagine. I shouldn't say obviously attached to that, but it's going to be. I'm searching for food based.
What are you trying to say there, Peterlin?
I shouldn't have said that way, John. I apologize, but I assumed you'd have some spicy. Like I'll start it off like cranberry sauce. I get why it only comes around once a year. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That rollout should only happen once a year.
I'm out on cranberry sauce.
Stuffing should be a more than just a once a year occasion. By the way,
see, I disagree with that. That's definitely a once a year.
Stuffing's fantastic.
Good for one day.
I don't get why we only roll it out once a year. It needs to be a once a month conversation piece.
Stuffing is only good for me for one day. Turkey, at the end of the day, I can live without it, but it's another thing that I can do. I don't eat turkey.
Very overrated meat.
It's just an overrated meat. It is. My one take on Thanksgiving, if I'm the National Football League, I would have the Thursday night game be flexed. Like, I think you've taken control of your schedule so much. Attack the best story and have that be your Thursday night game. The Thanksgiving night game in the recent years has not been. Now this one, I mean, it's still an AFC North rivalry, but like, let's face it, it's just there's not as much buzz as it would be if you parlay it into another big time matchup. So for me, like I'm surprised the league has not done more with that Thursday nighter.
It's a good call.
It would be my vote.
It's a good call. Like you can do better than Cincy Baltimore in this one. In fact, I would rather have the Friday game. I'd take the Bears and Eagles. That Friday game, I'd much rather have that as a Thursday night game.
And here's my other take. Like, I know that the National Football League's trying to take every day, but the Black Friday game, I don't love it. Like, I don't love that slot for the league. There's a lot happening on Black Friday.
You got family in town. You got other people you want to see. Yeah.
You got family in town. Like, I don't mind. We all love football, but is it absolutely a needed thing? Like, I don't think that has smashed as well as maybe they thought it would right off the bat. It's just my opinion. And also, Friday's become a massive college football day.
Yeah.
Because now you've got so much playoff stakes this weekend with like a variety of different storylines with who's going to make these conference title games. And there's some huge games on Friday in college football. So it's kind of been a unique thing. Like I would, if I was the NFL, Roger and his team have done such a good job with their schedule. I would look into that Thursday night. But yeah, stuffing's fine for me once a year. So is turkey. I don't like pumpkin pie.
Man, them's fighting words.
All right, John. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Are you coming back home for it, or are you staying out in Jersey?
I am off to Chicago for Marquette and Oklahoma, 2 Eastern time on Friday on Channel 3.
We'll be watching. Thank you, John.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, happy Thanksgiving. John Fanta right there of NBC Sports. Check him out on the call because he's a non-Syracuse guy. You know you're going to hear it. It'll be a good call. All right, 216-47.
Rocky River and Pinecrest offers something for everyone. Treat yourself or a loved one to a Woodhouse Spa gift card. WoodhouseSpas.com.
Sundays do not exist without us.
Shadore on third down, throws it. Sampson to the flat. Sampson 35. Sampson 40. Sampson, first down. He's at the Raiders 35. It's a foot race and he's gone. Dylan Sampson, touchdown.
This is the radio home of the Cleveland Browns. 92.3 The Fan.
Albert Breer coming your way an hour from now. It is Afternoon Drive. Jonathan Peterlin, Daryl Ryder with you guys as we get you guys ready for what is turning out to be a busy holiday week, Daryl. I mean, and we're going to have Jake Murren join us coming up in about 20 minutes. He was in New York this last weekend, had an interesting experience we got to dive into. But I want to dive a little bit deeper into some of the online discourse around Shadore. And 216-474-0092. Are any Browns fans clamoring for Shadore to be humble? We talked yesterday about his comments after the game and before the game, and I told you how I liked him. I did. I liked what he said before the game. In fact, it meant more before the game, before he had actually proven himself or done anything in that game. The fact that he was willing to say it the way that he did. There was something about I don't know, it's like almost like a gambler's energy that I just kind of picked up on that I loved. Something that is, and maybe this is the seedy part of myself in life, where at 15 years old, I was in bowling alleys consistently, and I was at horse tracks consistently, and I liked that part of life. That it's something I don't really do as much anymore, but I liked that part of life. But there was something I could I could latch onto with Shadore, the way that he could bet on himself that way, and his mentality towards everything, and making that comment before he had done anything, and really coming off of what happened last week. I mean, that takes stones, Daryl. You can say a lot about it, but that takes stones.
It did, and I was certainly surprised by what he said.
You were rolling your eyes there. What happened?
No, I was surprised that he said it. I don't disagree with you. It took stones, and then right after he said it, I was like, I hope he can back it up, because he's not the first to come in here and say something like that I'm going to be the guy. I'm the guy you've been waiting for. He's not the first quarterback to do that.
Right.
And nobody has backed it up.
Well, it's been hard. It's been hard to back it up. Did Baker back it up? Do we count Baker as backing it up? Because he was the first person that I thought of.
They didn't win a playoff game with him, so I have to say he did.
And he was the first person I can think of that came in there and was like, you haven't met anybody like me, essentially. You know what I mean? And obviously there's been other people in the past, but in more recent memory, he's the one that I always go to. And I don't know. In many ways, I look at it like Baker did the job, and if he would stay here, it probably would have gone even better in years to come, I would think.
Well,
who's to say? We don't have to relitigate that.
I know. I think it just all worked out the way it was meant to work out.
And maybe that's true.
And I'm not copying out
not really for the Browns in any sort of way.
Well,
because I bet they want that back.
Yeah,
if that's the way it was supposed to work out, giving $230 million to Deshaun Watson to get injured 3 straight years in a row and then have him basically be useless to then try to get something in a 4-quarterback battle in the second year of a 3-win season, that's not the script.
I want to say something, but I'm going to bite my tongue.
It's not the script, is all I'm saying.
I know.
I don't know. You tell me. All right, so Jim Rome.
They kind of got what they deserved in that whole situation. That's what I'll say.
All right, then. Jim Rome, speaking on X earlier today, talked about whether or not Shadore can be humble. Jake told me I'm going to be fired up with this one. Here we go.
Normally, 5th-round picks on 3 and 8 teams do not usually talk that much, or at all. But then again, 5th-round picks on 3 and 8 teams generally are not the son of Deion Sanders. So I understand why this is a unique situation and a unique player, but let's maybe do a little more than just beat up on the pathetic Raiders before we start telling everybody how great we are and how legendary we are, and just give me a whole season of reps and then check back with me. The defense had nearly as many sacks as you completed passes, dude. So maybe we chill with the me stuff. Beating them doesn't really prove anything, no matter how badly some of you want it to prove that you were right once and for all.
I just want to make a bunch of Jim Rome jokes. That's why we can't play Jim Rome clips anymore.
Rack 'em.
With clones. I just want to do. It's all I want to do. All right. Was there anything that you heard there that led you to believe that Jim Rome was right? That Shadore shouldn't have been talking the way that he was talking? And I saw some people getting on this morning. By the way, the idea that who does Shadore think he is to say that he's going to get all the starting reps in an offseason? We're not even guaranteed to get starting reps 2 weeks from now, nonetheless in the offseason.
All I know is if he was doing a tour stop again in Cleveland, he'd be wearing a number 12 jersey.
Yeah. Yeah,
100%.
I mean, I think that's a fair thing to say. Because Jim Rome used to be like a big Browns guy too at one point, wasn't he?
I remember the tour stops he used to do, and he would wear jerseys.
Well, now he's on X, so he doesn't have to do those tour stops anymore.
Yeah,
he just kind of hangs out there on the internet. But does he have a valid point? Is there anything that you heard that was valid?
I understand. I disagree with him, but I understand where he's coming from. If that makes sense. And here's what I mean.
Yeah.
I get because I am one of those people, you know what, why don't you show me something before you run your mouth? Like, why don't you earn the right to run your mouth? But first of all, Shadore didn't say anything disrespectful. Mm-hmm. I think that's important to point out here.
Yeah.
This is at the core of who he is as a competitor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And look, this is his personality. And I think when you tell a kid, I'm going to call him a kid because I'm old enough to be his dad, but like when you tell a kid to change who they are, I think that messes with them a little bit.
I agree with that. Yeah.
I don't have any problem with anything Shadore Sanders had to say or has had to say. I really don't, but I also understand those that have Shadore fatigue, that he really...
Well, that's not fatigue. If you have that comment off of that, you don't know Shadore Sanders at all.
Well,
you need to get more informed with Shadore if you have the take that Jim Rome had right there.
But there's a lot of hype around this kid, and he hasn't done a lot at this level.
But something you said that's important, though, is that you don't want people changing who they are, and I do think that's a very dangerous thing. And so I'll err on the side of being overconfident and having belief in yourself than I will trying to, I don't know, conform to what you think all the pundits want you to say and what all the talking heads want you to go ahead and talk about. Like, I will much rather have somebody go and be themselves and be who they actually are. This is who Shadore's always been.
Did he call anyone out?
No.
Did he criticize anybody?
Not a single person.
Did he slam anybody?
Not at all.
Okay, then what's the problem?
Exactly right. But like everyone's, it's not just Jim Rome. Eric Mangini on First Things First, Fox Sports 1, he went down this same path as well. And you just don't hear these when J.J. McCarthy does it, this isn't the conversation. When J.J. McCarthy has that speech in the locker room where he looks like he's going insane, people just seem to love it. They grab it. Oh, this is awesome. But when Shadore does it, apparently it's just being cocky, brash, arrogant, and all these other things. Here's Mangini.
Why? That's how we got here. That's how we kind of ended up in the 5th round, talking like that, presenting yourself like that. And I get it. You want to be confident, and that's fine. You should be confident, but you don't need to take it to this level. And it's one of those things where you had 11 completions, and the defense had 10 sacks. You were playing the Raiders, which just fired their offensive coordinator. Things are fairly dysfunctional with that group. And I get it. You had 1 week of practice. Baker Mayfield went to the Rams with less than 48 hours of practice and lit it up when he was there. So you were there for OTAs, you were there for training camp, you've been there all season, you've been in every single meeting, you were the backup quarterback, so you had 1 week of practice. How many weeks of practice do you need? Let's see, now that you get more than 1 week of practice, how dangerous you are. Baker woke up feeling dangerous, and he got shipped out. And then he was on 2 more teams before, he became dangerous again. I think that there's some value in humbleness.
All right, that is a massively dishonest take that he had. Let me tear that down first before we get to the other part of this. You can't bring up Baker's 4 days or 48 hours that he had in Los Angeles with Sean McVay and use that as it's apples to what Shadore is going through with his first NFL start. Baker had started for years with an S. Not only in Cleveland, but also in Carolina, and had a million opportunities to play the position before he was asked to, in 48 hours, be a quarterback for a Rams team with Sean McVay. That is an apples and bowling balls type discussion, not apples to apples. Hated that part of the argument. The other part of this, though, Daryl, is what Mangini is trying to, at least I think, trying to stress the importance of making Shadore be something that he isn't and making Shadore be that 5th round pick that everybody wants him to be. He didn't get to the spot that he's at by acting like a 5th rounder. That's not who he is. And that's not who when he lays his head down at night, thinks that he is. And the moment that he starts to think that he is, in fact, that 5th rounder, then you've taken away something special, something unique, and something that I don't think can be replicated in a lot of people. I don't like to tear down and take away the things and the elements that make somebody special. And I think this is another one of those things that Shadore has that makes him special and different, not one of these things that he should change.
I'm going to end Eric Mangini's criticism with this. He went 10-22 as Browns head coach, lasted 2 seasons here, and when you want to talk about being humble, I don't know, Eric, maybe if you were humble enough to actually hire a legitimate NFL GM, you would have lasted more than 2 seasons here, and you would have won more than just 10 games. So please don't talk to me about being humble.
Okay, you're not a Mangini fan.
Oh, I think he's a brilliant coach, and I think he could have been the best coach this franchise had since Bill Belichick, and arguably the best coach in the expansion era. But he wanted to be Bill Belichick Jr., okay?
Yeah.
Never wanted to explain anything. Hired George Kokinis to be his puppet. George Kokinis lasted all of a cup of coffee here, okay? The circumstances of his departure are so murky, we can't even legally talk about it, okay? And you're going to sit there and criticize Shadore Sanders' lack of humbleness when you yourself, as the head coach of this franchise here, could not humble yourself to bring somebody in to help you run personnel because you thought you knew it all, and loading the team up with ex-Jets and ex-Patriots who were past their prime but cost a ton of money was the way to go? Sorry, I'm not interested in that take from him.
All right, 216-474-0092. Are any Browns fans clamoring for Shadore to be humble? And Jake waited for an hour and a half for this. You'll find out what it is next right here on The Fan. First, though, it is Jonathan for my friends over there at Summit Sound. Wouldn't it be great to remotely start your vehicle from the convenience of your home or your office with the press of just a button? Remote starters starting at Summit Sound, $419 installed. In fact, we're looking at the weather out there for the Browns game on Sunday. I see a lot of snow in that future. You can be like me. 2 weeks ago, I went into Summit Sound. Roger and his team, they're fantastic. They took care of me. They hooked me up with one of those remote starters. And now, in fact, I was showing Daryl in between the last break. I can press a button on my phone. The green button lets all the way up. And then once I see it go green, bam, my car is started. And then by the time I get out of here, it's a beautiful thing. The car's ready to go. It's warmed up. It's perfect. Also with the Drone Mobile optional app, I can pull that up as well, and then I can start it just right from the convenience of my phone. You can also do so with your Alexa speaker as well. It's so many different things that are just make it so cool and so awesome. Call Summit Sound today, 330-405-9393. They are the very best. They'll get you a free consultation out there. For immediate answers, go online, summitsound.net. As always, summitsound.net. See it, hear it, and
This is Joe Checkeye for 92.3 The Fan.
This traffic report is brought to you by Peter & Company Jewelers.
Thinking about proposing during the holidays? Visit Tammy and the team at Peter & Company Jewelers in Avon Lake today. Discover stunning engagement rings and guidance from the jewelers where Cleveland gets engaged. Visit peterjewelers.com today.
Miss one day and you miss a lot. We are the radio home of the Cleveland Browns.
Here we go, Brownies! Here we go!
92.3 The Fan.
All right, back in here on The Fan. It is Afternoon Drive. Daryl Ryder, Jonathan Peterlin with you guys. Albert Breer joining us at 5:20. The lead coming your way in 15 minutes. 216-474 below 92. We're asking you if any Browns fans are clamoring for Shadore to be humble. We'll get a couple calls on this, and then we'll get to Jake's story. As Jake was in New York over the past weekend, and he blew my mind with this story. You guys have to hear it. Ryan in Akron up next in The Fan. What's up, Ryan?
What's up? Hey, I am not clamoring for Shadore to be humble. As Browns fans, have we not watched the last 25 years? We should be clamoring for games to be won. Why were we not clamoring for Baker to be humble? And even better, how about this? Why were we not clamoring for Winston to be humble? Everybody's okay doing it except for Shadore for some reason.
It's a good point. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate you. Ryan knew I'd be on board with that take, so he felt pretty confident there at the end. Because I am getting some tweets and Twitter reactions brought to you by Shadman Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store. Like, short and sweet on Twitter is like, I think he's being a spoiled brat, if we're being honest about it. You can tell by Dion's comments saying he beat a 3-time champ that he was overly rewarded as a child for doing something good, and then he laughs at, LOL, whatever that is. But, like, I just don't see it as the spoiled brat thing. I just don't. I read it more like how our last caller reads it. I don't want him to be anything but what he is. And I think people in life in general, I think you go down a problematic road when you try to be something that you're not, when you try to be something that isn't what got you there. I told this story, I think, to Nick on last Friday. One of the guys in the radio business that really it didn't help me out in a way, but it was just good advice, was the idea that, I'm sure somebody's told you this at one point in your life as well, Daryl. People, when they get like a new radio job and a new gig and they get that promotion, where they stop going to the next spot is when they stop doing what got them there. And they start being something different, or they start maybe catering to a fan base, or start doing something that isn't what actually got them the job to begin with. And that works beyond just radio, but you got to be you. And I like the idea that Shadore's himself.
As long as he's not being disrespectful to anybody, I just don't have a problem with it. I have no problem with his personality. I love his energy. I love his confidence. Obviously, want to see him back it up on the field. That's important.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to sit here and criticize a guy because he went on the broadcast before kickoff and said, I'm the guy they've been waiting for. Or, after the game, hey, if you like that, imagine what, if you actually gave me an off-season of work, could do. Why? Why should I be angry at that? Like, right. I don't understand the argument.
No, I get it. And by the way, Daryl in this segment brought to you by Shadman Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store. All right, Jake, you went to New York over the weekend. I was going to make a bad Jay-Z joke there. I'll stop before I do that. How we doing today?
We're doing all right. All right,
so tell me what happened. Break it down for me. I don't know that Daryl knows his story.
Yeah, he was giving me the stare when I walked into the studio because I think he saw the topic in the rundown and is questioning why I did what I did on Saturday in New York City.
Sources confirmed that is exactly what I'm thinking right now.
So we went into New York. We only had one day in New York on Saturday because we were going to see a show on Broadway for my wife, and there was this hot chocolate truck that went viral on TikTok that she really, really wanted to try. Right. I love hot chocolate. I was all about it.
How viral is this? I got to look this up now.
Very viral, and I think you might understand me a little bit when you actually see pictures or videos of this. So
is it called Glace?
Gloss, yes.
Gloss. It's not even glaze, it's gloss.
So I call it gloss
You're
because...
a hot chocolate snob now.
Look at you. So I call it gloss because...
We call it gloss around these parts.
I'm going to sound like a snob saying this,
do they serve leaded or unleaded hot chocolate?
Indeed.
In French, glace means ice cream, so I'm just assuming it's pronounced gloss.
Jake went to France for his honeymoon, and he's very...
He's Mr. French now, Mr.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, and his beignets and his ennui. All right, go ahead.
So... we couldn't even track down this place at first because it was in Rockefeller Center, and we thought it was closer to Radio Music City Hall, but it wasn't. And they actually have it right next to the rink in Rockefeller Center.
Yeah.
So we see
pretty
these,
good spot to have a hot chocolate stand.
Yeah, right
sure.
near like Saturday Night Live.
Absolutely.
All that stuff.
It was like 40 degrees outside. It makes you want to have hot chocolate. And we saw these two girls with them, and we're like, hey, where did you get that? We can't find this. And they said, yeah, the line actually starts right here. It took about an hour, but it was totally worth it. And in our minds, we were like, you know what? We have some time to spare. The show on Broadway doesn't start for another 3 or so hours. Let's stand in the line and wait for it. We're both pretty excited to try it.
You're justifying a lot, but here's where I'll come to your defense, okay?
Yeah.
I feel like on vacation, that's an okay thing to do. It gave you an activity. New York's expensive, so anything you do in New York's going to be expensive, but this ends up being like an hour and a half. You wait for the hot chocolate. Was it the best hot chocolate you've ever had, though?
So it was the best hot chocolate I've ever had. I just don't know. My wife loved it. She said absolutely worth the hour and a half wait.
It doesn't
Can't justify.
It looks good, but I don't know about an hour and a half.
Here's the toasted marshmallow around the rim of the cup.
I see that, yes.
Incredible. I had the classic s'mores flavor. I should have gone brownie batter.
Well, I would have ordered like 7 of them if I waited an hour and a half, by the way. I'm not like, I'll take one hot chocolate, please. I'm ordering.
Maybe that's why the line was so long, because every customer was just ordering a million hot chocolates.
So oddly enough, in New York, Elise and I years ago went to this place called Levain Cookies, okay? And everyone told us it's like the world's greatest cookie. And we waited about a half hour. We didn't wait an hour and a half, but we made a specific drive over for this cookie. And it is, in fact, the best cookie I've ever had in my life. So, like, when it pays off that way, you tell me you're the world's greatest. I'm always intrigued. But then when you legitimately have, I kind of like the little bit of a wait, too.
Oh, so you're okay with the business not being humble.
It verifies it all. No. The business can speak whatever it wants to speak about on TikTok, anywhere. Listen, it's not being humble. It's being cocky and arrogant in a way that I appreciate. If you got the goods, let's back it up. Hey, the business didn't create these lines, Daryl. The people created these lines.
I just don't know that
TikTok created these lines.
I just don't know that there's anything in this world that I'm willing to stand and burn an hour and a half waiting on. So I'm not doing it for roller coasters.
I don't know that hot chocolate is where I'm like, I need that for an hour and a half. Like, even if I walk away being like, that's the greatest hot chocolate I've ever had, I'm all right with mediocre hot chocolate. I don't know that you're going to really blow my socks off.
How big was the portion?
Funny enough, there were 2 hot chocolate trucks on the street next to where the line was to get down to Gloss by Rockefeller Center, and they were just completely dead. All they sold was popcorn and hot chocolate, but it was like nowhere in comparison to Gloss, this TikTok famous hot chocolate with the toasted marshmallow around the rim. But I did have 2 thoughts going through my head while I waited in line for an hour and a half. One was the scary thought of, okay, 45 minutes in, a worker's going to come out and be like, hey, we're out of marshmallows, we're shutting the stand down, and we wasted our entire day. Or the second thought was, we're already in this line for 20 minutes, half an hour. We're not going to give up now because you already wasted that much time. You're just going to follow through to the end with it.
Sunken cost fallacy. You have to see that thing through.
Yeah.
All right. So you didn't feel like you wasted your time. I think on vacation, by the way, in an expensive place like New York, I think this is a cool thing to do for an hour and a half.
So
how many paychecks did this hot chocolate cost you?
I don't hate it.
No comment.
Oh, no. Was this really expensive hot chocolate?
No, I mean, each cup was about $13. So
you're in New York.
I mean,
that's
it's
what
New
things
York.
cost. Daryl almost you almost died over there.
I didn't care what the price was.
For
I was going for it.
How big was the hot chocolate?
It wasn't the biggest.
If anything,
that doesn't tell me anything.
You'd almost be disappointed if you paid like $6 for the hot chocolate after an hour and a half. You're like, you want to feel like you're paying for some substance there.
Yeah, we knew we were going to spend a lot of money in New York, and we had a limited itinerary, limited time, but we were able to fit that in, and I guess we're mostly happy with the decision.
Only thing I can tell you out of this, I really don't think this is the worst thing ever. I would just say next time, just let somebody call it glaze instead of gloss or whatever you call it. Gloss. Gloss.
I was the stickler in the line calling it gloss. Everybody was like, "Oh, I can't wait to see," because I took French for 4 years, and I'm like, it's a trigger warning for me just hearing a word mispronounced like that. But
the lead comes your way next, right here on the Fan.
This is Andrew Bogish with an Odyssey Sports Minute. The Pistons did not clinch the NBA title last night, but in winning their 13th straight game, they matched the longest winning streak in franchise history. The two other Piston clubs to win a baker's dozen in a row went on to win the title that season in 1990 and 2004. Not sure these Pistons have the ability to win it all, but they will be a tough out in the postseason. I'm Andrew Bogish.
I know that hiring can be challenging.
Coming up today at 5:20 on Afternoon Drive, Breer from Monday Morning Quarterback joins Jonathan and Daryl. Headline sports news every 20 minutes on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Katie Pollock.
Listen to the NFL triple header on Thanksgiving Day. Your home of the NFL and Westwood One in Cleveland. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan. It's 5 o'clock on The Fan, and it's time for The Lead with Nick Wilson and Jonathan Peterlin on Afternoon Drive.
Albert Breer joining us in 20 minutes. He'll give you his breakdown on what he saw with Shadore, what he liked, what he didn't like. We'll get a clip from Connor Orr, by the way, his teammate at the MMQB.com. That'll be in The Lead as we get this thing going. Mary Kay Cabot, Cleveland.com, on with Baskin and Phelps today. She had insight into Kevin Stafanski's relationship with Shadore Sanders.
People just keep wanting to read something into the Kevin Stefanski, Shadore Sanders relationship that is not there. It's just not true. It's complete fiction. I mean, the things that people should be paying attention to are all the extra time the Browns have taken to develop Shadore Sanders and all the one-on-one time Kevin Stefanski has spent in his office going over his tape from the day before. That's not something that Kevin was ever going to tell us. Myles Garrett revealed that, and then we got it out of Kevin. Rest assured, they've been working very, very hard with Shadore to get him to this point.
Okay, and I believe that, Daryl. I believe that they've been working hard to get him to the same spot. I don't think Stefanski's trying to sabotage Shadore or do anything like that. I don't want people to act as if Stefanski has propped up Shadore and given him everything under the sun, because that's where I feel like it's a little bit of a false narrative attached to that. I just don't buy it. And I'm not saying Mary Kay's saying that. I'm saying in the generality of this conversation, I don't love the idea that people are acting like Stefanski's bended over backwards for Shadore, when the reality is he bended over backwards for Dillon Gabriel. And then Shadore only got in and proved himself with the game, by the way, but only got in because of the concussion to Dillon Gabriel.
He's not supposed to bend over backwards for the fourth-string quarterback. Now, once he's the starter, yeah, you got to...
Well, but that's why the read has been right for people, though. And like, even if you have that understanding, like he's not supposed to do that, that's fine. But then you can't get mad at the people whose read on it is you didn't do nearly as much, or you're not really treating Dillon and Shadore the same. Because as you just said... It's your second quarterback that you drafted this season. Maybe you're not supposed to be able to do that or not supposed to act that way. But then when Shadore literally takes the team, puts him on his back and says, okay, let's get this win, and delivers the win, then I can't in turn give you all the credit in the world either. Especially if you come from what you just said, where your initial point is, I'm not supposed to treat you any sort of way because you were second off the board and because you were a fifth-round quarterback.
Yeah, I just think that this whole relationship thing's just, it's filling time for people. I think more's being made of it than is really there. Kevin has been quietly behind the scenes working with Shadore, trying to get him to a place where Kevin was comfortable putting him on the field. Kevin, I understand where you're coming from when you talk about talent evaluation.
Yeah, but that's where I thought Stefanski missed. His evaluation said Dillon Gabriel was better than Shadore, and as of this point, that's just nowhere close.
Well, where I fault Kevin is he was comfortable putting Dillon Gabriel on the field because, I guess, Dillon knew the playbook and all that kind of stuff. That's great, but he couldn't execute the playbook. And once you got to a point where you saw he couldn't execute the playbook, you got to make a change. And if it wasn't for the concussion, he would have never made the change. I'll grant you that criticism. But as far as all this other nonsense about he doesn't talk to him enough on the sidelines and didn't give enough practice.
I'm not saying that.
I'm not saying you. I'm just saying that all this other nonsense is thrown. He didn't give him a game ball, so he's been mad. Just stop, okay?
Yeah.
He's the starter now, and Kevin is doing everything he's supposed to do as the head coach, along with Tommy Reese as the offensive coordinator, to make sure Shadore's prepared for the start, and that's what matters right now.
Yeah, I think there's got to be it's someplace in the middle. I think a lot of people have to eventually meet on that. I do agree with you. I think some people take it to an extreme that Stefanski doesn't like Shadore or doesn't like it. It's like that's nonsense. He's invested in him. The problem I had is that he was more invested in Dillon, and that was clear and obvious, and his evaluation was wrong on that. So in turn, I just don't want to end up being the guy that turns around and is like, well, Stefanski, whoa, great job you did with Shadore, when I don't see it that way. I think 9 months ago, Shadore could have been put on any team, and it would have looked exactly the same as it just looked on Sunday.
Well, I got news for you. If Shadore Sanders turns out to be a quality quarterback in the NFL.
This is
For
what
the
I'm
Browns,
trying to prevent, though.
He's going to get
I know,
the credit.
and you know that. And this is what I'm trying to preemptively attack this.
I'm looking forward to that just to watch you.
It's going to melt my brain, and I know it. This is why
I can't wait.
It's like a daily thing for me, trying to make sure that I get on the prevent of
I
this.
have never been more invested in the success of Shadore Sanders than I am right now in this moment.
Just because you want me to melt like the Wicked Witch of the West?
100%.
As I sit there and tell you he would have been this regardless of Stefanski,
100%.
or if he was coached by a bowl of mashed potatoes, it would have been the same result.
Well, I don't know that it'd be the same result if you're coached by a bowl of mashed potatoes.
You're right. The mashed potatoes might have made him better.
All right.
Got him some good food in him, at least, you know? I mean, jeez.
The QB's Connor Orr called the Browns game plan hilarious in Shadore Sanders' first start on Sunday against the Raiders.
At every instance, Shadore tried to take the governor switch off the car and to push the throttle all the way to 90. I think that's exactly what Kevin Stefanski and Tommy Rees didn't want to happen. The Browns' confidence in Shadore can be defined by this. Every time they got into the red zone, it was Wildcat, and he wasn't on the field, okay? They punted from the opponent's 27-yard line. Ross Tucker even said it in the booth. He goes, I've never seen this before in my entire life. I mean, that's how bad the Raiders' offense was, to be fair, and you're sort of playing within the flow of the game there. But it was check the ball down, don't make any mistakes. And still, Shadore would pull the ball, roll out, and fling it deep every chance that he got. And it's unfair of me to say that I don't see it. He clearly has talent, but I think that he's got to learn how to play in an orchestra first.
I think that is ridiculous. First of all, every quarterback goes off script. It's in their DNA. It's also in the job description. Plays just do not get executed the way they are drawn up as perfectly on the whiteboard. That's just not the reality of playing football at any level, let alone the National Football League. Second, when he did, quote-unquote, go off script in your mind, because we have no idea what play was called, so how do you even know if he went off script? But I'll grant you he went off script. He was pretty successful when he went off script. Mm-hmm. So no complaints from me there. I just, again, it's Shadore Sanders, and he's a lightning rod, and everyone is trying to carve out their unique hot take on his performance. Look, was he Hall of Fame caliber on Sunday? Absolutely not. A ton of area he can improve. It was a strong, solid start, and it was 1,000 times better than what we had watched the previous 10 games.
It definitely was, and that's why I'll repeat what I said earlier, because it was it just bears repeating, because I think it should be the standard going forward. National pundits that want to talk about Shadore Sanders in the context of this Brown season must watch every Dillon Gabriel snap before they comment on it. That should be like the new rule across the board. You have to watch. Clockwork Orange style will just open up your eyes and will make you watch the 6 games, because I think that's where you need the proper context attached to what we saw with that bad offensive line, the bad wide receivers, everything that was there, and how that operated with Dillon Gabriel, to then watch that game on Sunday and really appreciate what you saw with Shadore. I think it's going to be necessary for some of these people. They won't do it. They're not going to go back and watch it. I get it. I understand it. But I think it would make a lot more sense to them why we, as a collective, the Cleveland Browns fans as a collective, are acting the way we are right now after watching Sunday. John Fanta, NBC Sports, joined us last hour. He explained why he's still in favor of a regime change for the Browns this offseason.
The Browns leadership finally figured out that, maybe you should just give him the starting nod for next week, so that you aren't on for 2 or 3 hours for the next 2 or 3 mornings with people saying, what are you thinking? It's like they finally woke up on the right side of the bed and said, maybe we should actually name him the starter so we avoid all the negative attention that would come with it. Because the fact is, Stafanski and Barry would have gotten blasted by everybody if they did not understand that he was going to be the starter all the way on Sunday. I mean, clearly he did some things once they drafted him over the summer that go beyond just speeding tickets that, they probably didn't love. But, Daryl, you went to training camp enough. To me, the most egregious thing is that the people that make the decisions in this operation started Dillon Gabriel week after week after week. That's the biggest mistake here. And that's ultimately why I still think a regime change is needed.
Listen, everything he said about the decision-making process, drafting Dillon, the reps, all that, valid, can't argue it, and I'm not even going to try. The only thing I will push back on with John there is the public opinion part, okay? never listen to the fans. Once you start listening to fans, you join them, okay?
They don't typically. I mean, Haslam does. But I mean, I think Stefanski does a good job of not listening to the fans.
Stefanski does. But organizationally, the Rabbit Ears do go up on a regular basis.
That's for sure.
They are very well aware of the pulse of Browns fan.
That's for sure.
And how they feel. But everything else John said there about decision, I can't argue it. Sorry, don't have a hot take there. Just is what it is. Cavaliers fell to 12-7 after losing to the Raptors last night. When asked where the team can improve, head coach Kenny Atkins said that the Cavs' shot selection probably should get a little better.
We can find better shots, I think. The big part of that is our spacing, I think, especially when we're down some guys, our spacing has to be almost perfect. And right now we're still trying to figure it out, because with spacing comes our cutting principles. A lot of things come off that. So get the spacing better, and our shot selection will improve.
I mean, Lonzo, by the way, just continues to be horrendous from the field. I give him so much credit for making every player around him better. His passing is extreme. He's so talented of a passer. I did not realize with him coming here how good of a passer he is. But in a Mobley and Donovan type game last night, the offense didn't have it. They didn't shoot good from three. It was not a particularly good game and not very enticing, Daryl.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's early in the season. They got time to get this thing together. Certainly, we're comparing it to a 15-0 start from last year. I mean, that's impossible to top. I feel like they're in LeBron mode. And what I mean by that is they're just trying to get through the regular season at this point, and wherever they land in the seeding is where they land, and then they got to get it done in the playoffs. Like, that's... I don't have any Cavs hot takes right now, because I just recognize where they are organizationally in the team building process, the championship window process, and so, you know what? They're working stuff out. They're using the month of November to do it in December. That's fine by me.
And that is the lead. We come on back. Albert Breer joins us in his weekly time next on Afternoon Drive.
The Fan Bud Light Tailgate is back. 6 hours of game day coverage. Nick Padone and Jake Volnick get your game day started at 7 a.m. Jonathan Peterlin and Coach Lance Risley take over at 10 a.m.
Plus, beat reporter Daryl Ryder will have updates up until kickoff.
The Fan Bud
happenings in the groin area last night. He is appealing the suspension. The Cavs have a few days off until their next game, which is Friday in Atlanta. They lost last night to the Raptors, and they were missing a lot of players due to injuries. Coming up next on Afternoon Drive, Albert Breer from Monday Morning Quarterback joins Jonathan and Daryl. Headline Sports News every 20 minutes on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Katie Pollack.
Back in here on The Fan, it is Jonathan Peterlin, Daryl Ryder with you guys. We go out to the Fan hotline. The MMQB.com's Albert Breer joins us here on The Fan. Albert, how are we doing today?
Good. How you guys doing?
We're good. I promise you Nick is not dodging you after you dog walked him on your podcast earlier last week. He's just under the weather, I swear.
No. Well, that was fun, actually. I don't know. I feel like with this whole story, I'm kind of like stuck in crazy town right now. So it's, but you know what, that's sort of what it is. I turned First Take on Monday. So you have this great Sunday of NFL action or whatever. And like all these really important games. And of course I look at the Chiron, I'm actually doing my own podcast. And I think it's like, what does Shadore need to do to prove to Stafanski he needs to be the starter or something? It's just like, oh my God, I can't believe it's where we are. But hey, the Browns are a national story now, I guess.
We knew we'd always get there, Albert, but it is an interesting way of getting there. And so, all right, let me ask you, last week you were critical. This week, how do you feel about Shadore and the discourse?
I think the discourse is still like that bleep crazy, but like, I think you saw some things where you want to see more. You know, like sort of my thought coming out of it was, first of all, that's a bad Raiders team and the defense carried you and great. You know what I mean? Like, I think that part of it shouldn't be forgotten. Miles Garrett was unbelievable and is the defensive player of the year and could break the sack record, which shouldn't be forgotten in all of this. But, just as far as Shadore in a vacuum, like I think you saw a few things that, like, would make you want to get a second look and see it against a better opponent and give them another week in practice. And now you build and you see where you can go with it. You know, I think I've said this a few times to you guys. I don't think the quarterback for next year is on the roster right now. And you have runway with Shadore where he's under contract for another 3 years. So, again, there are obviously some things that didn't go right in the game for him. There are a few things that did go right. I think you saw that he brought some juice, and the throw to Bond was a highlight, of course. He makes another couple throws where he buys time. The one to Judy that Judy wound up fumbling. You see some instincts and some ability to extend a play there. So yeah, there are a few things. I'm not going to go crazy with it, but I think it makes you want to see a little bit more. So we'll see a little bit more this week and see where it takes us.
Albert, did the Browns blow it waiting this long to get to Shadore? And considering the only reason Shadore is on the field right now is because Dillon Gabriel suffered that concussion and earned this extra start this week?
That's hard to say, Daryl, because I just think, again, the players know. You know what I mean? And if this were some sort of obvious thing, I think it would have happened earlier because the players would have made it known what was going on and made it uncomfortable for the coaches, because if you're deficient in the most important position on the field, that's going to make things harder for everybody, and so, I don't know, the sense I got just paying attention to it was that the Browns players believed, in the moment that Dillon Gabriel was the best option for them. Now, I think, with Shadore given the chance to start, some of the things that they saw him doing around the facility over the course of last week made them feel a lot better about him being the starter, for last week. And then he does a few things in the game and you want to see a little bit more and we'll see where it goes. You know what I mean? I just think it's one of those things and you were at camp, if this were overly obvious, oh my God, we got to get him on the field, he would have been on the field by now. I don't think there's some grand conspiracy to keep him off the field. But sometimes guys get opportunities in different ways and do something with the opportunity. And I think to Shadore's credit, he had a good week of practice last week. He did extra, to try to get himself and the guys around him ready to play with him. And, I think some of that showed up on Sunday. So now, he's created another opportunity for himself. We'll see what he does with it.
Yeah, Albert, I read your mailbag yesterday that you dropped. Can you let the listeners in and give some of the insight, especially as it relates to Joel Bitonio and the conversations you had with Joel Bitonio about some of the extra work that Shadore was getting throughout the week?
Yeah, so, Joel said that, and obviously he's the longest tenured Brown, and I don't need to tell you guys probably – I don't know, Daryl, most respected player in the locker room, right up there,
yeah,
right?
That's fair. And, that's fair. Not only respected in the locker room, but respected by folks like me that cover the team.
Yeah, so, I think, for Joel to say that, hey, I came in at 7 a.m. to lift, and I looked out there, and there's Shadore walking through with some of the younger offensive players. He said that was really good. He didn't necessarily expect to see that, but that was something that Shadore was doing when no one told him to do it. And he saw it again on Thursday and again on Friday, And so I think it's a good sign of he knows where he's at, and he knew the opportunity in front of him, and he knew that it would be good not just for him but for the other guys to get the extra work in. So they get that extra work in, and I don't know if he had to be told to do it, but it seems like that was self-motivated. You know what I mean? So. All of that's good. That's what you want to see out of somebody at that position. And, it was good to hear that, too, because I do think it shows, all right, I understand, this opportunity is in front of me. And, if I go out there and it doesn't look good, then they're probably going to go right back to Dylan. So I got to do everything I can to create another opportunity for myself. And he went and did it. That's a huge credit to him.
You mentioned some of the coverage and conversation around Shadore, and I, by the way, 100% agree with you. I think it's gone crazy. But do you think Shadore's largely misunderstood in the media sphere as far as his personality? He's just always been positive and energetic in my interactions with him. That seems to be what he is behind the scenes when nobody's looking, and yet it seems to be a lot of the media want to weaponize that persona against him and accuse him of being braggadocious or disrespectful or not humble. We heard that from Eric Mangini, who, oh, by the way, wasn't humble enough to hire a legitimate GM here in Cleveland when he was the head coach, but he's going to tell me about Shadore needing to be more humble. But do you think he's like Shadore because he's just so popular in the social sphere and is just has that outgoing, happy personality, that's being weaponized against him a little bit?
That's an interesting question, Daryl. I would say, I think part of the problem is, and look, I don't think he's overly arrogant. I don't think there's an intentional. I don't think there's an intention by him to come off that way, right? I just think a huge piece of this is kind of the environment he grew up in. And I think some of these guys who become really famous when they're very young have some child star syndrome. You know what I mean? Where they maybe don't fully understand how they come off, and so for example, there were all those rumors, I'm sure you guys remember from Colorado, where he was going to games separate from the team, right? Or there were all these different things about all this different stuff that was going on. And I'm not sure Shadore ever knew he was doing something wrong. I think he just kind of that's been the life that he's lived because of who he is. And so I think sometimes with some of these guys, there can be a little bit of a lack of self-awareness, and that came off in the pre-draft process. And I don't think any of it is evil or dark or anything like that. But I can just tell you, from some of the people who dealt with him, there was he just had an air about him that he'd arrived. And again, I don't even know that that's his fault. I just think that there's a little bit of that. I've been famous since, I'm the son of a famous, of one of the most famous football players ever to put a pair of cleats on. And I've grown up in this environment where I've always been the biggest name and I've always been the show, and carries himself that way. And I think sometimes there's a little bit of are you even aware of the way that you're coming off? And I always think about this with quarterbacks, right? I've said this to both Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen. Like, I think the intangible capital that those guys got from being in like a golf cart at the match, right, with a case of Coors Light in the back, like, it was incalculable, right? Like, those guys like still come off as normal people, and that can be so key to playing the quarterback position. And that's what you want, right? Like, you want, like, Brady was this way. Brady had a great way of toggling between like celebrity Tom Brady who's at the Met Gala and then just being a normal guy in the locker room. And like eventually that got harder for him, but at least at the beginning he came off as a very normal guy. And, you know, I just think like with Shadore, maybe sometimes he doesn't realize the way he comes off, and hopefully some of that comes with age. But I've never got the sense that he's like a bad guy or anything like that. I just think sometimes there's a lack of self-awareness because he grew up differently than the way most athletes grow up.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the match that they play, because every time I see a Coors Light can, I just think of Mahomes calling it birdie juice. And it's like little things like that just stay with you, Albert. Yeah.
I mean, like, but doesn't it, like, as wealthy and powerful and successful as Mahomes becomes, he still comes off like a kid from East Texas, doesn't he?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, Josh Allen still comes off like the guy from the farm. Joe Burrow still comes off. I mean, Joe Burrow comes off like half my college friends, like the kids from Ohio. You know what I mean? Like, I just think like a lot of the guys who reach. I mean, Lamar Jackson is so authentically himself, right? And like doesn't come off as like a multi-million-dollar athlete. Like, I just think at that position, there's like a microscope on those sorts of things. And sometimes you have to work hard to come off a certain way. And I just think with Shadore, sometimes there can be a little bit of self-awareness that he could gain, and maybe he'll gain it with age, that doesn't exist because of the environment he grew up in. Again, that's not necessarily like, maybe it's not fair that people judge him on that because it's just kind of like his reality. But I do think that that's maybe part of some of the disconnect. I don't know, Daryl, you're in there every day, but maybe that's like part of the disconnect between the way he's perceived and who he is.
Albert Breer joining us here on The Fan. All right, last one with Shadore, and then we got a couple other things I want to get to, obviously. But yeah, you have a lot of people that you've talked to throughout the 9 months we've been doing a lot of Shadore discourse, and it felt like some of them were more negative than positive, let's say. Did any of those people that maybe had doubts or casted anything, again, it's just a game and a half, you can't make any declarations, but did they watch Sunday and say to themselves, ooh, that was better than I thought it was going to be?
I mean, I got to be honest with you. I just haven't asked enough people, like a couple people here and there. But like, it'd be unfair for me to like cast anything based on one person's opinion or the other. I assume if I asked around, I mean, I think like, you know, if you ask around, a lot of people would tell you based on like just a little bit that I've heard that there was some good and some bad, and really maybe not. He looked good, but there wasn't a whole lot of new information that they got from the Raiders game. Like, there's still, you know, some of the bad habits are still there. Some of the playmaking ability you saw at Colorado's there now. You know, like, let's see him grow. I think the one positive is it didn't seem like he was as much of a sitting duck in this game as maybe he was at times against the Rams in the preseason or in the second half against the Ravens. So I personally noticed a little growth there. But, you know, I think you got to let this thing kind of breathe and see it over a couple of weeks, which to me is why, like, now – he's earned the right. Like, I think you just give him a little runway and see where he takes it.
Myles Garrett, kind of good this year. Up to 18 sacks, had 3 more. 4.5 shy of the single season sack record. What are folks saying about him around the NFL, even though he's playing for a 3-win Browns team?
Yeah, I mean, he's just otherworldly. I mean, there was a play. And then, look, I think it was against Stone Forsyth, so whatever, you know. But like, there was a play on Sunday, and you guys can probably pick it out and remember it because I think I've got so much jumbled in my head after these weekends. But there was a play that was like, I mean, it looked like the biggest mismatch I've ever seen in all my years of covering the NFL. Like, he ran right by him. Like, it was like, holy crap! Like, this is like Derrick Henry high school tape type of stuff here, you know. And so he's just playing at such an incredible level and with such incredible consistency. And you know, I think I did my midseason poll a few weeks ago, and he was the defensive player of the year despite playing on, you know, a team that's well out of contention. I think there's all the respect in the world across the NFL for Miles Garrett. And the only question I think is, like, is he ever going to have a chance to compete for a championship? But I look, like, I don't think anybody needs to tell anybody what a great player he is. I mean, he will. You don't say Hall of Fame lock with very many guys because it's such a hard process voting those guys in, and there's a high bar to get into Canton. But he's one of the few where you can say, yeah, 5 years after his career, he's going to be putting on a gold jacket.
Jerry Judy last Wednesday had a 1.5-minute press conference. That's all it lasted. No answer was more than 5 words. He then went into the game Sunday. You referenced the fumble already, but a lot of Browns fans they're just done with Jerry Judy. It's amazing the amount of calls and tweets we've gotten this week where people are just like, we're done with Jerry. We want nothing to do with him. What has happened here with the Browns this year? I almost feel bad for him with the lack of quarterbacks around him, Albert, but something has changed with Jerry. We're getting the end-of-time Denver Broncos Jerry Judy.
Yeah, I think that's sort of the risk, right? Like, part of the reason why, Sean Payton makes that trade, when he makes that trade, is because they were reworking the culture. And, it's a little surprising because this is a guy who did come out of Nick Saban's program at Alabama and was highly regarded there, and was part of that receiver group with Devontae Smith and Henry Ruggs. Like, he was always a little bit of a different guy, like a South Florida guy and all that. But, like, certainly, Sean Payton saw some things where, when they're reworking that roster, he didn't fit what they were trying to do the same way that Cortland Sutton fit what they were trying to do. And, I think a huge piece of it is, like, how he's going to react when he's hit with adversity. And obviously, if you're a receiver playing for the Cleveland Browns this year, you've been hit with a bunch of adversity because your quarterback situation is unstable. The offensive line's been a problem. And, if you're worried about your numbers or your own personal performance, there's going to be a lot of frustration you're dealing with. So I say it's all those things rolled into one. I just think, it feels to me at least like he's maybe one of these guys that goes as the wind blows. Like, if things are going well, he won't be a problem. But if things aren't, you might get a different version of him.
All right, Albert, do Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, do they play this weekend? And what's the score, 75-0, 75-3?
I hope it's 75-0 with a couple minutes left, and then we score again.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I'm talking like old school Woody Hayes. I went for 2 because I couldn't go for 3. I think Michigan will be able to keep it close for a little while. I think Matt Patricia, who I know a lot of people are surprised what a good job he's done. I'm not sure what a true freshman, an 18-year-old quarterback is going to look like in that environment against that coordinator with 4 or 5 first-round picks on the field. You know what I mean? Like, So I tend to think like, is our offense going to go crazy? I think Michigan can play. I think Michigan can play good defense against us. But I don't see how Michigan's going to be able to score with us. And so, like, I think if Ohio State scores 17 points, we're fine. And my guess would be, all right, so I would just tell you guys right now, I feel pretty good that Jeremiah Smith's going to play. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't play. Carnell, I think, is a little bit more of a day-to-day thing, but I know they're trying to get him out there.
All right, Albert. Enjoy the game. We'll talk to you next week. Enjoy the happy Thanksgiving as well. Daryl, we got accused of jinxing him earlier. I went a little overboard last year as 21.5-point favorites, and so I feel like I'm just going to recuse myself from the conversation because last year I did nobody any favors that way. I said you could be asleep by halftime and all this other stuff, and I was made to look like a fool at the end of it.
Albert, I'm wearing my red Ohio State hoodie right now. I'm not going to lie, little nervous. I will not be wearing any of my Buckeye apparel that I have worn each of the last 4 years. During this particular game,
I like your read on it. Like
I have like a red Script Ohio hoodie that I bought last year after the Michigan game because I did not want to wear anything that I had worn the last few years for the Michigan game, and that red hoodie got us to 4-0, and we're 15-0 since I bought that hoodie. So I think that maybe that's what I'll be rocking on Saturday.
All right, Albert.
And Brady Quinn accused me of being the mush, and I will not. I will not be at the game either, like I was last year. I can show you guys a picture of me at the game last year. I'm the most miserable looking person on the face of the earth. But I reminded him that Notre Dame is 0-3 with me in the stadium, which now they're 1-3 because I took my kids to BC Notre Dame a couple weeks ago. But I'm my stomach's in knots, but I'd be surprised if we don't win.
Enjoy the game and happy Thanksgiving. Thanks, Albert.
All right, happy Thanksgiving to you and everybody out there in Cleveland. All right,
thank you so much. Albert Breer right there on the Fan Hotline. We'll react to what he had to say, but first, let's get you a Katie Pollock Sports Update.
92.3 The Fan, 2020 Sports.
2020 Sports by Window Nation. Get 50% off all window sales plus 0% interest for 5 years. This offer ends soon, so schedule your quote right now at windownation.com. The selection of the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2026 is getting closer. Making it to the semifinals in their first year of eligibility are Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Larry Fitzgerald, Jason Witten, and Frank Gore. Returning semifinalists include Eli Manning, Hines Ward, and Rodney Harrison. The final 15 finalists will be selected before the Super Bowl. Shadore Sanders got a win in his first start for the Browns, and he'll try to get another.
The Fan.
This traffic report is brought to you by Peter and Company Jewelers.
Thinking about proposing during the holidays? Visit Tammy and the team at Peter and Company Jewelers in Avon Lake today. Discover stunning engagement rings and guidance from the jewelers where Cleveland gets engaged. Visit peterjewelers.com today.
Talk sports deep into the Cleveland night. Overtime with Jake Volnick. Weeknights at 7. Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Coach Riz joining us in about 15 minutes or so. It is Afternoon Drive. Jonathan Peterlin and Daryl Ryder with you guys. Obviously, Odyssey Rewind. Go back and listen to the entirety of the Albert Breer interview as... we're going to do like a post-game recap of that interview is kind of how this is going to go.
I'm not going to lie. Albert is always phenomenal when he's on with you and Nick, but today he was next level.
I thought he had a lot of good things to say, a lot of interesting things to say. That Joe Bitonio story I think is fascinating. I think his perception within the Shadore context is also very interesting as well. And what I like about Albert is he's always seen it a little bit differently than I do. Like, for instance, when he brings up that story about, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and all these guys playing in the golf tournament that they did in Las Vegas a few years back. I mean, I told Albert for a reason, when I think of Mahomes and I think of a Coors Light bottle, I then think of birdie juice, because that's like some of the relatability that they've been able to display. But I do think it's important to note in the three players that he had mentioned and their paths and how different they are than Shadore, and I think that does highlight some of the context. For instance, when it comes to Mahomes, and Mahomes is the most favored out of the three players that he discussed when it came to like bright lights, big picture and everything, but he was on a sub-500 Texas Tech team coached by Cliff Kingsbury that didn't really give him the biggest optimism, you would think, as far as his future NFL life until that final season that he had, right? Like, yeah. It's not as if Mahomes was viewed as Patrick Mahomes until very late in that process.
He was taken 12th overall.
Yeah, Josh Allen, quarterback of Wyoming. Like Josh Allen, I just saw a clip that was going around the other day of when Josh Allen was in high school begging college coaches to pay attention to him, essentially, and he sent out 500 emails, got no responses back, ended up going to Wyoming on a whim, and then it all worked out for him. Baker Mayfield, we talked about religiously the idea that he had two legitimate offers coming out of high school at Lake Travis, and it was for Rice and North Texas. Like I think some of those guys can be as relatable as they are because they've never really been perceived as the second coming of anything. They're the game's greats now, but if you were to tell 16-year-old Josh Allen that he's a league MVP and one of the game's greats, I think he'd slap you and be like, you're delusional right now. If you told Patrick Mahomes that, I think he'd say some of those similar things. Baker Mayfield as well. They all have belief in themselves, but the world that they've ended up living is vastly different. Like, I got a buddy of mine that's close with somebody that's very, very in Mahomes' inner circle. And he always talks about how Mahomes and his wife, Brittany, will hang out and go through, like, the Chili's drive-thru, like, on a very consistent basis. And, like, the Applebee's drive-thru, like, they love the, like, to-go orders on all that.
It's an MVP diet right there.
And it's just, like, there's things about him that you just can't break because this is how they grew up, essentially. And like, Shadore's life is very different from the idea of being Dion's kid, growing up where he grew up, and then having some of the things go in his life and the way that they went. He is different than those guys.
Well, he tried to tell that story after the game on Sunday about, hey, I grew up in a 30,000 feet house.
His dad took him over here and here and all these things.
To get me accustomed to life is good at home, but Dad wanted to show me the other side of the tracks and how harsh life can be. And I feel like he's trying to tell that story, but his dad being who his dad is, and the flash and the glitz and the glam, and Shadore has a lot of his dad's personality, and me saying that is not a negative, and I don't view that as a negative against Shadore.
I don't either. I look at it as infectious, and I don't need Shadore to do a golf invitational match and then talk about birdie juice in order to be like, I get this guy, I like this guy. Part of what I think I like about Shadore is the commonality traits between him and Baker Mayfield, despite having very different upbringings and very different, just what they were from the time they were 6 years old to the time they were 18 years old. But there is a relatability attached to Shadore that I feel like some do miss. There's confidence, there's all sorts of belief in yourself, but there is a part that's infectious, and I feel like sometimes that gets missed in those conversations.
Yeah, and that's why I asked Albert about Shadore's personality being weaponized against him a little bit because people don't understand. And a lot of these folks that talk about Shadore have either never met him, never been around him, and all the information they have about him is second, third, and fourth hand. But yet they're the ones that are going viral for, what they have to say about him and the situation he's in.
No doubt about it. Nicely said there. All right, Coach Riz going to break down everything he saw with Shadore's performance, what he liked, what he didn't like. What do we do with Jerry Judy, by the way? Oh, those were some comments from Albert Breer. We'll dissect a lot of that in the 620 segment. Daryl's got an update on the stadium as well in the 620 segment. But Coach Riz will give us the best breakdown you'll find. It happens next right here on Afternoon Drive.
This is Gresh with an Odyssey Sports Minute sponsored by AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. The 26 candidates in the modern era players category for the Pro Football Hall of Fame have been announced, and one of them is kicker Adam Vinatieri, who was a finalist last year and didn't make it in.
Atlanta on Friday. Coming up next on Afternoon Drive, Cleveland.com's Lance Reisland joins Jonathan and Daryl. Headline sports news every 20 minutes on 92.3 The Fan. From the University Hospital Sports Desk, I'm Katie Pollack.
Whenever you need to talk about the Browns, we got you covered. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
All right, back at it here on The Fan. It is Jonathan Peterlin, Daryl Ryder with you guys. And again, Daryl brought to you by Shadore Jewelers today, Cleveland's premier jewelry store. As we go out to the Fan Hotline, let's get the best breakdown in the business. Coach Riz joining us here on The Fan. Coach, how we doing today?
Doing very well. How are you guys doing today?
We're good. We were trying to make a lot of sense out of what happened on Sunday and trying to figure out what's real and what's not real. And so to do so, we bring you on because you are the very best when it comes to the All-22. You're the very best when it comes to the breakdowns. Nobody else I'd rather talk to right now. So, Coach, let's get into it. And maybe, do I butter you up just a little bit because I want you to be as kind as possible? Yeah, maybe so. But I know you're a straight shooter and you're not going to let that sway you one way or another. When it came to Shadore on Sunday, shoot me with just the absolute truth and honesty. What did you like? What did you dislike? What did you see?
Well, the first thing that I liked was the impact he had on his teammates, and we talked about that before. Is that having that impact? Sometimes the quarterback change, whether it's warranted or not, or whatever it is, sometimes that impact really helps everybody else for some reason play with a lot of juice, and that's what ended up happening. So his impact on his teammates was huge, and then he made some plays. And the thing I liked about him is they didn't showcase him; they allowed him to play within the scheme to try to win the football game. Now, throwing wise, he was okay. I thought he made a great throw to Bond on the, but more importantly on that throw, I loved that he knew where the blitz was coming from, and they brought 6, and he knew where that 6th defender was coming from. So that was what's more impressive, because that's how you get out of blitz situations. You know where it's coming from, so you can get away from it. Then he, like the interception he threw was a simple stick swing concept. Those are things that he messed up on that I think will come with reps. So if you ask me, I thought his actual throwing was very average to solid, but his impact on his teammates was pretty outstanding.
Lance, we saw in the Ravens game some of the bad habits of retreating from the line of scrimmage. We didn't see that against the Raiders. He took 1 sack. I think there was one play where I felt like he got himself in a little bit of trouble. He took a couple steps back, and it was a dump-off pass. It was actually the roughing. They got a roughing penalty on that, on the catch. I think it was to Dylan Sampson, got slammed down pretty hard, and they threw a flag. But outside of that, how would you grade how Shadore handled the pressure, since that seems to be the area where he needed to improve the most?
I thought he did a really nice job. I thought you saw a really drastic improvement, right? So you're right. In the Ravens game, he really struggled, those old habits. He didn't know he was going in, so there was a sense of calm. And I think it also helps when those scripts are built for you, those first 10 to 15 plays, you know exactly where you're going with the football. Those are your favorite routes to throw. Those are the things that you feel most confident. And what that ends up doing is that makes you at ease, because you know it's kind of yours. It's your baby to kind of deal with. So I think you saw a drastic improvement just because he understood it was his game. He wasn't going anywhere, good or bad. I thought his footwork was very good. I thought his footwork was very good from underneath center in the gun. I thought he did a really nice job with his ball handling. You can tell he's been working at his craft. You hope now that the honeymoon's over and now that there's tape out there, now this is the next step for him. What is he going to do when teams take away some of the simple stuff, and he's got to improve? But I thought it was a pretty good start. But in terms of the fundamentals and the things that he struggled with, I mean, you have to call it like you see it. He made a really, really great improvement from the prior week. So good for him, and hopefully that continues as he gets more and more pressure on him.
Were you surprised that the Raiders didn't seem like they put that much pressure at all? I assumed they were going to just copy and paste what the Ravens attempted to do, and the Raiders don't have those players. They have Max Crosby. They don't have those players as a whole, though, but it didn't seem like they really brought the house the way that we all anticipated.
Well, I thought it was going to be like that. The more and more that you usually when a quarterback comes in cold, you pressure him because he's not knowing what's going on. So you bring 5 to 6 man pressures. When a guy has a whole week to prepare, they kind of knew that was coming. So within that script, you saw the empty where he hit the hitch. Mm-hmm. all the things that he had built in, they had built-in hots where they didn't really have to change anything. He knew exactly where to go, and he knew exactly, they threw the little levels concepts and Fannin with the check down and Fannin on the little slam flat, we call it. So they had built-in hots where he had an outlet built in. So usually what ends up happening with defenses, and you're going to see that more and more. Now they're going to start mixing it up. They're going to start mixing up the coverages, the fronts. They're going to bring pressure. But that early on, when you get a quarterback who comes in, regardless of who they are, but when they come in after an injury or something like that, you usually heat them up just because they're coming in with no sense of what the game plan is or anything. So, I didn't think they were going to heat them up, JP, but I thought they were going to do more than they did. But as you said, they don't have the people that can get there. They didn't have the people to leave people. They couldn't cover anybody. That was a very poor football team. So I think they were trying to do what's best for them. It'll be a much bigger test with Asala this week in this 49ers defense.
Put yourself in Kevin Stefanski and Tommy Rees's shoes. What are you telling Shadore this week as they prepare for the 49ers? What give me one or two key coaching points of improvement that Shadore needs to focus on this week?
Well, he's going to have to focus on if you saw a couple of times the checkdowns where it was almost late to the sideline with Sampson. So he's going to have to go through his progressions and get rid of the ball. If he wants to take that check down, take it right away. He's also got, if you look at like the second drive where he overthrew Tillman, he wants that one back because he had a check down. So it's the balance between taking your shots downfield, but also don't give up a free meal. So if they give you the check down, take it. Because what's going to end up happening is everybody knows Shadore likes to stretch the field. So you're going to get some linebackers who are dropping deep to try to get under those dig routes that he throws very well. If you look at like the Fannin route from the Ravens game, he likes to throw those deep in routes. So those backers are going to get a lot of depth. So I think what they're going to tell them, Daryl, is that, if they give you that underneath, take it until they start coming up. Don't give up that free meal. We'll stretch it later, but let's get this defense playing honest because they know you like to, they know you like to stretch it down the field. And then once again, he's got to make sure that he gets to a second and third progression. They're going to want to see what he does now that there's a week of film. So all the stuff that he had success with, that quick stuff, the 49ers are going to take a lot of that away, but then hopefully he has an answer as well. And I think that's what they're going to tell him. Hey, they're going to work on this. We're going to do this. So that's what kind of the next progression is with a rookie quarterback who had a pretty solid first start.
Coach Riz joining us here on the Fan Hotline, the weekly hit that we do with Coach Riz. So you made your time slot. We appreciate that. But, Coach, let me ask you, Jerry Judy, not thrilled with how that fumble went down. I found myself a little empathetic towards Jerry Judy. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's like the biggest play we've seen him make all year, and then it just ended the way that it did. I understand Browns fans' frustration right now with the man, though. He's not playing good football. Are you at the spot where you got to reconsider the relationship that we have with Jerry Judy, or do you look at it like he made the catch, he won't fumble it next time, and maybe this is something we can grow with?
Well, I'm kind of in the middle, JP. So the first thing he's got, he fumbles. He's got to change his body language, and he's got to change his approach to the media. He's got it. Those are things that you can control. So control the controllables. He fumbled the ball. It was a great peanut punch. He didn't have to hop and do all that kind of stuff. But mistakes happen, especially with those receivers. Now, if I'm the Browns, I'm figuring it out. My dad used to tell me this all the time. If you have kids who are, not always with the team kind of vibe, Jerry Judy's the best they got on the outside. So he's the best they got. If they really want to win these next 6 games, they got to get him on board. Now, what happens in the offseason, who knows? But they got to get him on board and have him being positive because they're going to need him. And if Shadore Sanders or whoever else is at quarterback, they're going to need some big plays. Now, for him, I think he should show a level of excitement because they are going to stretch the ball downfield. Shadore likes to do that a lot more. So, that was a huge play. Really nice job of avoiding pressure, moving out to your right, layering it over the top, and then he fumbles. But for me, it's not about his play. It's about his reaction to his play. We all make mistakes. We all have bad days. We all have bad days as coaches, players. You have to have good body language that everybody, that's what we're all seeing, right? We're seeing his body language. We're seeing his frustration. Can't do that because then you end up playing worse and worse and worse, and then no one feels bad for you. So he's got to improve his body language. He's still the best player they got on the outside. They got to figure out touches and figure out what makes him happy so he can help this team win football games.
It was very successful on Sunday, but what did you make of the Wildcat direct snap stuff to Quinshon Judkins in the red zone with Shadore Sanders on the sideline?
Well, I like it because when he's at quarterback, that gives you the +1. So they have an extra. They brought Jenkins in on the one. It was just a duo, like everybody get a hat on a hat. So I like that because it gives you that +1. Now you have an extra blocker because he's at the quarterback. And then they ran the jet and ran power, which has been one of their best plays over the last couple of years. So I think it's a good mix. I think it's a good mix-up. It gives you can get into your best run game, but you can add an extra blocker, Daryl. So that's why I think it's really beneficial because they've struggled with base blocking. So when you put him at quarterback, it gives you an extra hat in there, an extra guy to block, and then you get that extra little push, especially down in the 5. It's safe. It's simple. I liked it. I think it's a good mix-up, and it takes a little pressure off a quarterback because inside the 5, it's real condensed down there and real fast. So I think that takes a little pressure off the quarterback as well.
All right, Coach. And shockingly enough, in a dominant defensive performance, we've not spent any time talking about the defense and what we saw there because we're so Shadore heavy, and especially in this interview, this is where it goes. But tell me your favorite thing you saw on the defensive side of the ball as the last question we have for you today. What do you got?
They were menaces in there. That front four, if you go back and watch the film, Malik Collins, Graham, we all know Miles is doing his job, but the rest of those guys, Miles is playing at such a high level, but part of that is because the rest of those guys are also playing at a super high level. They're playing with their absolute hair on fire. Mason Graham and Malik Collins, that's why he's getting a lot of those sacks are because they're getting inside pressure and they can't step up, and then Miles is getting home. So it's a total team effort. That defensive line is next level, and they're going to continue to get better and better.
All right, Coach, we'll continue to check you out over there at cleveland.com, and then I'll talk to you once again on Sunday. We start at 10 o'clock this week. No 4 o'clock game for us this week. We're back in the 1 o'clock window. I'll see you at 10, friend.
Absolutely, guys. Have a good night.
All right, thank you so much. Coach Riz right there. 10 friends sounded really funny when I said it, too, by the way. It sounded like it almost rhymed. Like, I'll see you at 10, friend, and then it just kind of came out that way.
Well, you are a wordsmith.
Yeah, that is exactly what that shows. I love doing the pregame with Coach because a lot of times Coach can just call it out before basically anybody sees what's going to happen on the field during the game. And it was amazing just kind of hearing him go through in some of the pregame conversations about the amount of pressure and really what you typically would think would happen in a game like that, where they'd watch what the Ravens did and just unload and just really just bring the house. And then Coach is like, it's not really going to work that way. Like, pay attention to what happens in this game. Another thing Coach did that called out that came to fruition, he told us ahead of time, if you listen to the pregame show, he's like, Max Crosby is great. Max Crosby's not going to have a great game, though. Like, you're going to look up in the third quarter and be like, is Max Crosby even in this one? It's exactly what happened. You looked up in the third quarter and you're like, man, Max Crosby not really having much of an impact on that game. And the Browns were able to go ahead and see that one through. All right,
by MGM Northfield Park.
Excitement begins with an exhilarating journey tailored for you. Experience state-of-the-art gaming, world-class dining, live harness racing, and see the biggest stars in our concert-style music hall. Find your fun at MGM Northfield Park.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Turkey or ham? Who the hell cares? Stuff your face and take in football Thanksgiving Day on the Fan, the radio home of the NFL in Cleveland. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Take the Fan wherever you go. Listen to us on the Odyssey, iHeartRadio, or TuneIn apps.
All right, back at it here on The Fan. It is Afternoon Drive. Jonathan Peterlin and Daryl Ryder with you guys. In case we missed it, coming up in about 15 minutes, Odyssey Rewind. Go back and listen to our interview with Albert Breer at 5:20. He brought a lot of conversation to the table. I'm sure if Nick is back tomorrow, we'll react to some of it there. If not, I will react to it with whoever I am with. Daryl will be back in Berea tomorrow. And so we want to give Daryl this chance here. One of the guiding principles of doing this show when I'm with Nick is I always tell Nick in any sort of way, and I tell this to Jake, who obviously helps out a lot in producing the show, is like, if you feel great about something, you feel passionate about something, well, it could be about reading the dictionary. I want to hear it. You know what I mean? Like, if you really think you paint walls in a certain way, and you can make that interesting and you can make that passionate, I want to hear it. I say that because you feel very passionate about the stadium discourse. I am at this point like, all right, they're building it. That's the reality. I took myself out of that conversation maybe about halfway through that conversation, mainly because, well, not that I wasn't interested in it. I was interested in it, but
it's okay.
Well, no, I mean, I stopped being interested in it for sure. But there was a part of me that just kind of came to the conclusion that if I'm not the one buying the season tickets and I'm not going to be the one that is then asked to pony up the big time bucks attached to the PSLs,
right?
Well, what am I going to say on the situation? You know, like, I'm not the one that's going to be asked for $20,000 to pay for a PSL. So if I feel like it's great because I want a Taylor Swift concert in the future, that's nice, but the people that should have the seat at the table really are the people that are going to be ponying up the big time dollars for it. That was just my stance on it. About halfway through, I came to that conclusion. But you have something that you feel very passionate about and some insight into the latest around the stadium discourse and everything in between. You've been on the phones all day long, sourcing out opinions, etc. Lay it out for me, and you better bring the heat.
Well, look, it's not the Browns reached a $100 million settlement with Mayor Justin Bibb in the city of Cleveland to basically get them to do away with all the litigation. Both parties. Of course, the Browns have the suit in federal court trying to get the whole Modell law thing struck down and set aside. City of Cleveland is in county court trying to get damages from the Browns over this whole thing. And so they reached this $100 million settlement. Well, Cleveland City Council's not really wanting to play ball with this whole deal right now. And quite frankly, it puts it in jeopardy, this agreement. And they may end up having to go back to court to litigate this, which would not be fun for any of these sides. Why it's important is because they've already started moving dirt out in Brook Park. They're doing the site preparation right now so that they can break ground officially on the project and really begin the construction next year, first quarter next year. And the timeline is very important if they want to get the doors open by the preseason, which is August of 2029, the NFL season there. So there's a lot of political grandstanding going on right now. There's obviously not the greatest political relationship between the mayor and city council.
Yeah.
City council's not happy that the mayor negotiated this with the Cleveland Browns without them being involved. But guess what?
Oh, okay.
That's kind of how these things get solved.
So is that all it is? Is city council just upset that they didn't get a seat at the table?
Well, that's part of it. The other tentacle to this whole conversation is they don't feel they got enough.
So can they actually do something though? That's what I want to know. Can they actually? Are they just going to whine and cry about it all and then just make a stink about it, or can they actually do something about it?
Well, talking to folks today, there's basically two avenues. One, they rubber stamp it, and the fear is if they rubber stamp it, then they're signing off on the Browns leaving, and then obviously there's the emotional part of this too, and it's like. That part's already been. They're building in Brook Park.
I thought we were already done with that part of the conversation.
Right. Like you're not changing minds and hearts here. The funding from the state is in place. The Browns funding is in place. They're moving dirt. This project is happening, whether you're still crying about it or not. But the reason why this is important, Jonathan, is because, well, there is the legal aspect. And they reached the settlement. City council does have to sign off on the settlement. and city council's dragging their feet. The Browns were supposed to cut the first check, $25 million to the city of Cleveland. That was supposed to be cut by December 1st. This is not even being approved by December 1st. So the whole timeline of this agreement now has been thrown off. Okay?
Okay.
Like this process.
Which means, obviously, if they wanted to have something for 2029, maybe we're starting to talk about 2030 instead, maybe even 2031.
Because part of the agreement that was reached with Bibb and the city of Cleveland was, there's a big deal was made of this. It's not a big deal, but should there be something that delays this project,
they can still play at the stadium.
They can still play in the existing stadium. 2 years, 2 option years tacked on to the back end of the lease, with lease terms extended, as opposed to, you need to stay in the stadium next year. We're going to hold you ransom for $10 million in rent for that year. One of those toxic type of situations popping up. So there's all this stuff going on right now. The long and short of it is city council needs to get this thing approved so that the Browns can start cutting the checks to the city of Cleveland. The other thing, too, is they keep falling back to the arguments of the economic impact and the harm done to Cleveland and the fact that they still have $33 million in debt they have to pay towards the stadium over the final 3 years and all these things. They claim that they could stay in the existing stadium and lower the fiscal responsibility from $11 million down to $7 million with the renovation. Hey, look, that's all well and good. They're going to have to approve the deal.
What new deal does City Council want? Do they just want their own credit for this? Is that the idea? You restructure it, and then all of a sudden it's like, we came in and saved the day. Is that all they're looking for?
Here's the thing. Mayor Bibb actually extracted more from the Browns than the team originally offered
kind of
the
what
city.
I thought. I kind of felt like Mayor Bibb got as much as he possibly could, and maybe even then some. And all parties were just kind of happy with it because the Browns get to build their stadium. Mayor Bibb, although it doesn't look great, he still comes out ahead in some sense of the word. But City Council just wants their credit too. Is that all this is?
I think that's a big part of this too. But here's the reality from a financial standpoint. The city of Cleveland has not netted $70 million in cash from the Cleveland Browns since 1999 and the team coming back. Okay?
Okay.
The Browns are essentially, over a period of time, going to write checks in the amount of $70 million to the city of Cleveland. The rest of the settlement, whether it costs the Browns $2 million, $30 million, $50 million to tear down that stadium, the Browns are covering 100% of that cost and giving the city of Cleveland what's called a pad, is flat land to do with as they please. Develop it, put a park on it, whatever you want it, grow grass on it, put whatever you want to do. That is the condition the Browns have agreed to leave that land. So it's just basically right now, it felt like when this agreement was reached that was going to be the end of this. Like, we're done, everybody's moving forward. And, that happened in, mid-October. And you got basically Cleveland City Council right now is just dragging their feet because they didn't get a seat at the table. They don't want to act like that they're signing off on this agreement. They don't feel that the mayor got enough money from the Browns. All these things, but they basically have two avenues. One, you approve the deal, or two, you don't approve the deal, and you walk away with this potentially with absolutely nothing, and the Browns doing nothing for you, going forward as well. So that's kind of where this thing's at. It's still a little sloppy. It's a little messy. We'll see if it gets ironed out, but the settlement that was reached, it's off track now. Because this process was supposed to be signed off on by now.
So the Browns are probably pissed about this. The Browns thought they were all the way through, and then you have this another roadblock that seems to pop up.
They're not thrilled.
They can't be. I'd be pissed too if I were them. Like, you got this agreement with Justin Bibb. You basically, that's the guy you have to deal with first and foremost. You guys come to this conclusion, and then you get these city council members, and they've done this in the entire time. These city council members that act like they walk on water. They just want some sort of influence or some sort of, like, we matter in this discussion. And I got news for you guys. Let it go.
Yeah.
It's done. It's over. Let it go.
And there's a misunderstanding of just the whole financial picture of this as well.
What credit are they seeking out? That's the confusing part of this, too. Like, all of a sudden you get a couple more $1 million here and there. You feel like you bend the Browns over and you get a couple more $1 million, if that even happens. Which if I'm the Browns, by the way, I'm not dealing with this at all. I'm like, I did everything with Justin Bibb. Like, you guys, you sort it out with Bibb if you want, but we came to this conclusion.
Well, that's exactly what's happening right now. The Browns are just.
That's what I would do too. I'd play hardball if I were the Browns.
Yeah, well, they're not playing hardball. They're just saying, you guys work it out. We did
what we had to do.
We have an agreement. We negotiated with the person we're supposed to negotiate with. That's the mayor. We came to an agreement, and it's on you to honor that agreement.
If you keep offering more, it's like dealing with terrorists almost. If you keep offering more and more, then who else is going to pop out of the woodwork to be like, no, we also want this as well? And like at some point, it does become a little unfair to what they've already agreed to when it comes to the mayor and the team.
And they're going to get a check for $25 million.
Yeah,
which, by the way,
you're going to make money hand over fist.
They're not getting an extra $25 million between now and the new year, right?
Right.
They could from the Browns, and then there's all these other.
It smells like greed, is what it smells like, Daryl. I don't love this, and it's not like I'm sitting here defending the Browns,
right?
But in this instance, I think I am, because I just let them move forward. They paid you handsomely. I don't know. I don't love this.
And between January 1st, 2029 and January 1st of 2033, they get a $5 million payment, totaling $25 million over 5 years, right? Then there's from 2029 to like 2038, there's an additional $2 million payment that gets made that can be used for whatever the city.
It felt like the entire time these people the city council people have just been the most annoying part of this whole entire process.
Yeah.
They keep trying to insert themselves in places that I just don't think they should be inserting themselves.
And the whole reason we got to this point, and I think this is also where the city council's frustrated with the mayor, is because, well, when the mayor took office, it went from Frank Jackson to Justin Bibb.
Yeah.
The Browns were making plans with Frank Jackson. Remember the whole lakefront development project? It was beautiful, all those renderings in 2021.
Yeah.
Well, Mayor Bibb came in and was like, I got other priorities right now. You're not it. No disrespect to you, the Cleveland Browns, but I've got other things I'm dealing with, not you. And the Browns are like, well, we've got a major issue that needs to be solved here. And so the Browns took a back burner, took a back seat.
Yeah.
And, well, they went ahead and made other plans because, they weren't getting a lot of movement with the mayor's office and trying to move forward with the lakefront redevelopment and a subsequent renovation of the existing stadium. So they went and made other plans out in Brook Park. And I think that's another piece of the frustration for Cleveland City Council is that, because the mayor and whoever else was in on those discussions with the team, they kind of drug their feet, and the Browns went and made other plans because they couldn't sit around and wait for the city to get things together. It's a very sticky situation, and then you throw in all the problems they're having at Gateway financially right now. Cleveland had to cut a check for $20 million, so I don't know where they're finding all this money for these stadiums, and I don't know where Cleveland thinks they're going to keep finding money to keep the Browns and have them in that stadium. And that was one of many questions I asked today from folks that are actually in the room. But the long and short of it is City Council's holding up this agreement with the Browns that was reached with the city of Cleveland. And the Browns right now are just playing wait and see to see where this thing goes. But in the meantime, they're moving forward in Brook Park. The dirt's getting moved, and they're getting ready to break ground in
LegacyBox.com/value.
Isolated rain showers overnight tonight. Low of 53.
Weather brought to you by Staples. Have an easy holiday at Staples. Save on top tech and gaming gifts, shipping supplies and services to get your packages there safely, even custom cards and wrapping paper. Staples. That was easy.
The Buckeyes are number one in the playoff rankings. Whenever you need to talk college football, we've got you covered. We are Sports Radio 92.3 The Fan.
Alrighty, final segment of the show. We'll get you out to the coaches' show at the top of the hour. Jake Volnick at 8 o'clock. You got the hood up. You look like Bill Belichick right now.
Got a little cold over here. I'm not going to lie.
I don't know why. It's been cold lately. Obviously, the weather outside being cold obviously impacts that, I would imagine.
It's 40 degrees outside. I think we can cool it on the air conditioning.
Well, Phelps was saying the same thing. He came in today. He was talking about how cold it is. I said, I know. I don't know what to tell you guys. I guess it's just bundle up.
Next time I'm going to bring one of my stocking caps with me. Or maybe I'll just do the whole show in earmuffs.
You could do that. Whatever you feel comfortable with, you know?
Bring in my big mittens.
Sure. You have big mittens?
I do.
Sure. Then, again, whatever you feel comfortable with.
For my snow shoveling days.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Do you miss your snow shoveling days?
Absolutely not.
How much of not being a homeowner do you love right now? Downtown Daryl's a booze hound. He's out and about. Every other story is about Marcotte. Every other story is about him drinking somewhere. It's incredible. I knew Daryl to get down with it like once a year, and now every other story is Daryl just out in the town, painting the town red, boozing here, boozing there. Downtown Daryl's a different life, man.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't miss pulling weeds. I don't miss having to run to Home Depot every weekend.
Like, did we flip at some point? Is that what this is?
I think that's what's happened.
Like when you met me,
I don't miss mowing the lawn.
When you met me, I was downtown. I was living downtown. I was painting the town red. I was doing all these type of things, and then obviously, you know, I met my wife, and then we moved into Solon, and so now I'm a
family man now.
I'm a family man. I got 2 kids. I'm mowing my lawn on the weekends. Obviously not right now because we got a little snow out there. But at least we had snow, and then it went away, and now we're gonna have snow again in a couple days. But you get the point. Like I'm living at Lowe's. I'm doing all these type of things. It's like we traded places is what happened.
We did. But yeah, I am enjoying not having property responsibility right now.
All right.
I hope again someday to buy another home and do it again. I learned a lot in my 20 years, but right now I am enjoying a very fulfilling, maintenance-free lifestyle.
You do realize how much of your weekend gets sucked up by just doing things around the house when you no longer have to do things around the house. There's a lot of things around the house you have to take care of.
Although my washing machine isn't nearly as big as, I would prefer it, so I find it feels like I'm doing more laundry than I used to.
Yeah,
but that's just because the loads have to be smaller.
I mean, at least you have a washing machine in your apartment. In the second apartment we lived in downtown, we had the washer dryer set up, and Elise always had one in her building. But she lived in a nicer building than I did when I first got here. I lived in a pretty not great apartment building, and there was no washer dryer set up.
That was a requirement for me.
Oh yeah, that was awful.
I had to have an in-suite washer dryer. 100%.
Yeah, as the morning boys would say, congratulations on all of your success.
Yeah.
All right, let's get
so successful. I had to somewhere. Anyway, go ahead.
Let's get into in case we missed it. All right, Daryl, you bat lead off here.
All right, Joe Klatt was a guest on the next round where he was asked if the Iron Bowl is much bigger than the game.
Rivalry that approaches the hate of Alabama and Auburn. It is this one.
Approaches.
Klatt, you haven't lived in this state. They live in separate states.
You guys haven't lived in that rivalry.
Klatt, they live in separate. They live in separate states. These are the same state.
Guys, I love you.
Oh, don't
the
do
Iron
this.
Bowl
Don't do
is
this.
not
Klatt, don't
in
do
the
this.
hemisphere of Ohio State.
Out of your mind. Lance, because the Ohio State Michigan players don't have enough class not to fight, and Alabama's players and Auburn's players don't fight. Don't give me this. That is not more heated than Klatt. You have never lived in this state. I love you like a brother. Okay. My brother in Christ, you have never lived in this state to see what an Iron Bowl is like.
I mean, so Joe Klatt is right. It's not in the same class. I'm trying to make the argument. If I was going to make the argument, the Chris Davis return for touchdown, the Auburn's going to win the football game. That one, out of the 2 different instances between the Iron Bowl and the game, that is the most memorable of the 2 in the previous 20 years.
I mean, We had cops pepper spraying players at the Horseshoe.
I know, but the Auburn's going to win the football game is about as legendary as it gets between the two. If we're talking Iron Bowl versus the game, we're talking just pure one. You had to pick one moment from the previous 20 years between the two. That one wins out over anything that's happened in the game. I think the premise is ridiculous.
Has the Iron Bowl ever been 1 versus 2?
Oh, I'm sure it had to be. Maybe. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. I'm sure at some point throughout the years it had to have been. Like when Cam Newton won the title at Auburn, I don't know what Alabama was that year, but Nick Saban was there at Alabama. It had to be pretty high, I would imagine. I can Google it really quickly if you want to. But listen, I don't think anyone can make a legitimate argument that the Iron Bowl is in the same stratosphere as the game. I think Joel Klatt's more right in this discussion. But I do think it's interesting. I think it's interesting that SEC people were as offended as they were.
Yeah. Well, they feel they invented football in the SEC. Let's be honest about it.
Well, they did, didn't they? AI, and AI is not always right, by the way. AI is not always right. Says there's never been a 1 versus 2 matchup in the history of the Iron Bowl. However, the two teams did face each other when Alabama was ranked number 1 and Auburn was ranked number 4 in 2013, a game that Auburn won 34-28 on the final play. I mean, the last-second touchdown after the missed field goal. The kick 6 play is legendary. It is a legitimate one of the defining plays in college football for the previous 25 years.
But we're not talking defining plays. We're not talking about.
Well, I'm just trying to give them a feather in their cap. Okay. That's all I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to come at it from their angle and give you something to make the argument that was attached to that was it's the same state versus the same state. So at least that makes it something. I think that's a silly argument. That one falls very short for me.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio and Michigan fought over Toledo. Come on.
Yeah. Regretfully, we won that one.
Right.
Regretfully, we won that one. All right, Joe Burrow. We don't know what's going to happen with his status today. For the game with the game this upcoming weekend. But we would imagine that Joe Burrow will get his start Thursday night.
Do you really want to start him against the Ravens?
Thursday night. Bengals, Ravens. I would imagine Joe Burrow gets the start, but Joe Burrow spoke to the media about playing on Thanksgiving.
Like a lot of kids, you grow up going through Thanksgiving, you have your meals with your family, and then you go and sit on the couch, and typically there's not a lot on, except football. Back in the day, it was Lions and somebody. You go watch Matthew Stafford throw for 300, 400 some yards with Calvin Johnson and probably lose the game, but it was fun to watch. You know, those are memories that you have, and so I kind of always wanted to be the person out there.
And by the way, Albert's third quarterback was not Baker Mayfield. I wrongly stated that as I'm reminded of it right now. It was Joe Burrow, was the third quarterback he had mentioned with us at 520. And we want to talk about relatability. First off, Joe Burrow falls in that same bucket of guys I was describing, though. The idea that he didn't even get to start at Ohio State, then went to LSU. Like, 21-year-old Joe Burrow never envisioned this for his life. He just didn't. Like 21-year-old Joe Burrow that wasn't even starting at Ohio State. Sorry, he didn't think he was going to be one of the game's greats in the NFL. He just didn't. But the reality that his recognition of what Thanksgiving football is all about is Matthew Stafford throwing to Calvin Johnson to have the Lions lose was the most relatable thing I think I've ever heard, Daryl.
Didn't Leon Lett happen on Thanksgiving too?
We've had a lot of important Thanksgiving moments.
Yeah.
Yes, we have. But like you think bad Lions football, and then from my lifetime, bad Cowboys football as well for the majority of it.
Well, it was for me growing up, it was Barry Sanders and bad Lions teams, right?
Yeah, and that's a part of it too.
But now the Lions are good. Now I actually do want to watch the Detroit Lions on Thanksgiving. After, for about, I'd say 25 years, I wanted nothing to do with the Detroit Lions.
They finally turned into a good time, yes.
On Thanksgiving.
All right, thank you to Meredith Kane, thank you to Michael Markoch, thank you to Katie Pollock, and thank you to Jake Murrin, as always. Appreciate all of you guys. I guess we'll do a Michael Markoch. I'm the body.
Yes.
Thanks for hanging out, Daryl.
A lot of fun. You get someone else tomorrow. I don't know who it's going to be, but it won't be me.
I don't know either. We'll find out tomorrow, okay?
2 days with me was long enough.
We had fun. Will it be Nick? Will it be somebody else? Tune in to find out. Thank you for always tuning in, as you guys always do. I'll be back with you guys tomorrow. Again, the Coaches Show